G20 Leaders Summit on African soil with the confidence of a host who pulled off a major multilateral win. After 2 intense days in Johannesburg, leaders signed a sweeping declaration that pushes for real money behind the just energy transition financing, meaningful debt relief for poorer nations, and a new framework for responsibly managing the world's critical minerals. The summit also doubled down on commitments to climate action, gender equality, and securing peace for Sudan and Ukraine. Ramaphosa insists that the consensus shows that shared goals still matter, even when some of the world's biggest players disagree. And in a final flourish, he noted the upcoming handover to the United States, whose government pointedly skipped the summit. But he says, as you heard there, it will not be done to charge d'affaires at the embassy of the United States, but rather the event of the handover will happen in the coming days, framed as a preservation of the integrity and dignity of the G20 as a body. So here's what we will do. At about 6:45, I'll be in conversation with presidential spokesperson Vincent Magwenya. In fact, I'm told that we might speak to him only after 7, but we will talk to Vincent Magwenya, who will reflect on that diplomatic maneuvering that happened over the last few days, leading to the adoption of the declaration. Then we'll speak to Dr. Mzwanele Ntshwanti, who is the G20's, who's a senior researcher at the Institute for Economic Justice, focusing on all things G20. And of course, we'll then talk to Elizabeth Sideropoulos from the South African Institute of International Affairs. That conversation coming up at about 7:45. While we're reflecting on the G20 and some of what's contained in its declaration, the issue of food security has been centered by President Ramaphosa during the S20, one of the events that happened in the build-up to the G20, and his comments on strengthening food security have drawn welcome attention to child hunger, malnutrition, and stunting, which are problems that have been long raised by civil society and organizations like Grow Great. But policy statements alone do not fill empty stomachs. South Africans living with hunger daily are asking, what will government do now to show it understands that child malnutrition is an urgent national crisis, not a distant developmental target? So we'll have a conversation about that and reflect on that with Dr. Edzani Papuri, who is the Grow Great Executive Director. So we'll bring you that story at about 8:10. Lastly, let me flag this one. It's Zuma versus Zuma, as the already curious and puzzling story of the 17 South Africans that are trapped in war-ravaged Ukraine takes on a criminal and an element of family feud dimension, a deep and unprecedented public rift that has erupted now within the Zuma family after Nkosazana Bonganini Zuma Mncube laid criminal charges against her sister, the MP Duduzile Zuma Sambudla, over the recruitment of 17 South African men now trapped in the Russia-Ukraine war. Zuma Mncube alleges that her sister and 2 other people deceived the men into traveling to Russia under false pretenses, where they were reportedly handed over to a mercenary group operating in eastern Ukraine. The case has intensified national concerns about human trafficking, illegal foreign military recruitment, and the vulnerability of South Africans lured by promises of overseas employment. So Samgele Masego will report for us on that story in the second hour of the show, just after 7 a.m. Lots of commentary. The police are confirming that there was indeed that Nkosazana Bonganini Zuma Mncube did come through and has deposed an affidavit, I believe it is, and basically that case has been opened. So we'll hear from Samgele Masego a bit more about it, including what it means for the MK party and what they are saying about it, if they are speaking on it at all. The full team is ready, able and willing to serve up your updates throughout the morning, and Musa is at the news desk. Rob Byrne is watching your traffic. Zykan watching all things sport, Melissa Puta with the morning brief in brief, and that's coming up in the next few minutes. And Dowling Lechela, always right on the money with your business and market updates. And of course, as always, Sipho Mantula with the Africa update at about 20 to 7 this morning. Let's have a conversation throughout the show. 086 000 2032. That's the number to dial. Your WhatsApp voice notes and messages 0614 104 107. Let's get into it. The Monday edition of the Morning Brief starts now.
Nothing beats the summer holidays, lazy pool days, ocean waves, festivals, food, and family fun. That special time is almost here, and with Fly Safair's affordable, flexible fares, you can zoom off to SA's hottest spots. Sunshine guaranteed, worries not included. For big holiday savings, use our low fare finder to hunt down the best flight prices in just seconds. Don't be a bummer. Fly into summer. Book now at flysafair.co.za. Fly Safair, for the love of flying.
Since December 2024, South Africa has proudly led the G20, guided by a powerful theme: solidarity, equality, and sustainability. From the heart of Africa, we're bringing fresh voices and bold ideas, united by a commitment to build a future where no one is left behind, where economies grow fairly, and where our planet's health guides every decision. South Africa's G20 Presidency 2025, together shaping tomorrow. This message is brought to you by the Department of International Relations and Cooperation.
Big stories of the day. Hashtag the morning brief.
16 minutes after 6. Let's go to Melissa Puta to kick us off with the morning brief in brief. Good morning to you, Melissa. Why are our MPs, or some of them, going to prison?
Good morning, Thulasizwe. Ad hoc allegations and general concerning criminal influence, corruption, and interference is possible and from of what curious of the Texas Hospital 2 billion rand fraud scandal tender after the site from and inquiry
When it comes to litigation, Melissa, the former president, Jacob Zuma, is known for never really going down without a fight. And fight is exactly what he's doing in this case that says to him, pay back the money.
Definitely. So former President Jacob Zuma will be going to he's going to appeal a judgment ordering him million pesos and had members with the as putting so if legal he's able because he appealing through the position is unconstitutional and he the reason is text support the this force so this is the whether or not he
And your last story is not good news for commuters in Gauteng. What's happening with this bus company, state-owned bus company, NTI?
so the state-owned NTI bus company is corrupt for about billion and stolen of rand. Company is on these and owed never salary to business I am of it's really noting. Service corruption, how stuck the rent is can contract as urgent proper management and what we see how it develops.
All right, Melissa, thank you for that. Melissa Puta with the morning brief in brief.
You are listening to the Morning Brief with Thulasizwe Simelane.
20 past 6. Here's how your weather will be looking. Two warnings, and they're quite serious on the higher end of the scale. So there's an orange level 5 warning. It says severe thunderstorms producing heavy downpours, hail, and excessive lightning that will lead to flooding of susceptible roads, low lying areas, and bridges, damage to infrastructure and properties due to large amounts of small hail or large hail in open areas, strong damaging winds, and disruptions to communication and municipality services due to lightning activity. All of those conditions are expected over the northern parts of Gauteng, central parts of Limpopo, as well as the highveld of Mpumalanga, except for the extreme southwest of that province. Then there's a yellow level 4 warning. It says severe thunderstorms producing heavy downpours, hail, and excessive lightning that will lead to flooding of susceptible roads, low-lying areas and bridges, damage to infrastructure and properties due to large amounts of small hail or large hail in an open area, strong damaging winds and disruptions to communication and municipality services due to lightning activity. All of that expected over Limpopo, except for the central parts and the Lowveld, southern parts of Gauteng, Mpumalanga escarpment, and the extreme southwest, as well as the northwestern parts of KwaZulu-Natal. The rest of your weather looks like this. Pretoria will be cloudy with widespread showers and thunder showers, 17 to 26. Johannesburg, cloudy with widespread showers and thunder showers, 16 to 24. Same conditions in Vereeniging with a minimum of 17 and a maximum of 25. In Mbombela, it will be cloudy with scattered showers and thunder showers, 17 to 25. Polokwane, partly cloudy, becoming cloudy with widespread showers and thunder showers, 14 to 29. Mahikeng, partly cloudy and windy with scattered showers and thunder showers, 17 to 30. Bloemfontein, partly cloudy and windy with isolated showers and thunder showers, 14 to 27. Same conditions in Kimberley with a minimum of 14 and a maximum of 30. Uppington will be fine and windy, 19 to 33. Cape Town will be fine, 16 to 28. George will be partly cloudy with a chance of light rain in the morning with a minimum of 14 and a maximum of 23. Gqeberha, cloudy in the morning, otherwise partly cloudy, 15 to 23. East London will be cloudy in the morning with light rain, otherwise partly cloudy, 16 to 23. Durban, cloudy with scattered showers and thunder showers, 16 to 22. Richards Bay, cloudy with scattered showers and thunder showers, 19 to 23. And lastly, Pietermaritzburg will have morning fog patches, otherwise cloudy with scattered showers and thunder showers, 13 to 19.
Worldview Update, bringing you closer to international or global news.
23 minutes after 6, let's give you an update on the war in Ukraine, which has entered one of its most volatile phases yet, as a controversial US-backed peace proposal requiring Ukraine to cede territory, accept military restrictions, and abandon NATO aspirations has triggered alarm in Kyiv and among its European allies. High-stakes negotiations opened in Geneva amid deep divisions within the Western camp, growing battlefield pressures from Russia, and increasingly sophisticated Russian drone warfare spearheaded by a new unit known as Rubicon. Let's unpack all of that with Professor Abel Esterhazy, who is a member of the Department of Strategic Studies at Stellenbosch University. Good morning to you, Prof, and thank you for your time. So outline for us then the complexities and contours of this Trump-backed proposal that is stirring so much controversy and debate.
Oh, good morning. I think the most important question about this whole proposal is why it was leaked to the media. And top of that, uh, who leaked it to the media? Because that would give us a good indication as to what they are planning to do with this document. At the moment, it is typically a leaked document. You don't know how, let me put official in inverted commas, how official it is, and how Ukraine and Europe in particular should respond to this. But let me say two very particular things about the document I've read. Uh, Quite a number of translations document and or rather critiques of the document over the weekend. And what it seems is that it is quite a strong influence of Russian translation in the document. In other words, there was quite a strong influence from the Russians in drafting the document. I think that is the first point one has to raise, and that immediately has two effects. The one is that there's a divide in the U.S. administration, in the Trump administration, about the document, and quite a big divide. The State Department seems to be very wary of the document. They're standing away from the document. Um, and as part of the U.S. administration's engagement with the Ukraine war and peace process is nobody really knows who in the U.S. Is taking responsible, is taking the lead uh, in dealing with this problem. Then, of course, the second implication is that this is steering us towards quite a big divide between the Americans and Europe in how to manage this war and how to look at the war in Ukraine. With, uh, Interestingly enough, the Europeans now seem to be standing much closer to Ukraine than the Americans. Uh, they're much more committed to their support for the war in Ukraine. So quite an interesting situation. We'll see what is unfolding in Ukraine, or rather in Switzerland, with the negotiations at the moment. I think we haven't seen the last word on this document. I think this is just a document, perhaps from the Russian side, to dominate the information line and to set up um, uh, sort of a baseline for their point
Yeah.
of departure in the peace negotiations.
All right. But thank you for that. That's Professor Abel Esterhazy, who is a member of the Department of Strategic Studies at Stellenbosch University.
This is SAFM Sport with Zai Khan.
Good morning to you, Zai. So there was victory in Dublin.
Dublin? Is that you? I
In
can't,
Dublin.
I can't even attempt the Irish accent. But good one. Yeah, yeah. The green and gold with what is Zelma saying? She's trying to give us a bulletin there, Zelma. Anyway,
Hurricane.
let Hurricane Zelma is intervening on our good news story, and it is the man known as Malcolm Marx, Muscle, Mats, Mayhem. He brought the marvelous all in one over the weekend, and what a joy to say that he went through and got the Man of the Match award as well. And that's with the box victory, and he was the World Rugby's men's 15th player of the year. So definitely some dominant season, dominant sessions from the Springbok hooker Malcolm Marx. Kaizer Chiefs have opened their CAF Confed Cup campaign with a 2-1 defeat to Al Masry in Egypt. The Amakosi equalized through Dylan Solomons after conceding a penalty early in the second half, but a late defensive error allowed Mohamed Hashim to seal the winner for the hosts with 3 minutes to play. Stellenbosch FC opened their CAF Confed Cup campaign with a 1-0 win over AS Atoho in Polokwane. The victory lifts them to second in their group ahead of next week's trip to Zanzibar to face Singida Black Stars. TX Galaxy returned to winning ways with a 2-1 victory over Golden Arrows. In Durban, Richards Bay and Durban City played to a 0-0 draw at the Umhlatuze Stadium, with both sides missing key chances. The Premier League, Eberechi Eze fired a brilliant hat-trick as Arsenal hammered Spurs 4-1 at the Emirates, and Aston Villa climbed into the top four after coming from behind to beat Leeds 2-1. Cricket now, the Proteas all-rounder Sanuran Muthusamy says he had completely given up on ever playing Test cricket again after his 2019 debut, his maiden century against India in Guwahati, helping the Proteas reach 489 in the first innings.
Just really grateful, for the support that I've got back home, for the people that are really close with me, the coaches, the support staff here, the players, my family back home, my friends. They've been incredible. Also started working on with Dr. Cheryl Calder, some eye gym. She's been awesome, so just really grateful for that. Yeah, but I've got a really cool group around me, so I'm very grateful for their support and their love, and yeah, it's an awesome journey.
That's right. We'll be swinging back with more sport. Top of the hour. I'm Zai Khan.
Good morning, I'm Anne Musa. In the headlines, a Hawks member and a Timbisa hospital official are expected to appear in the Pretoria Magistrates Court today on charges of corruption. They allegedly attempted to bribe another Hawks officer who was part of a team investigating tenders at the hospital. The National Director of Public Prosecutions, Advocate Shamela Batoy, is expected to continue to testify before the Nkabinde inquiry when it resumes in Pretoria today. The inquiry is looking into suspended South Gauteng Director of Public Prosecutions, Advocate Andrew Chauke's fitness to hold office. And the G20 Leaders Summit has ended with a joint declaration committing to multilateral cooperation. The declaration, which covers climate change mitigation and economic inequality, was adopted despite objections from the US, which boycotted the two-day summit. I'll have details on these and other stories at 7.
SAFM, guiding you through the rush hour traffic.
Good morning. It's a busy one coming out of the southern parts of Joburg. There's an issue on the N12, Joburg bound, just by the Lenasia exit, by the 554 Lenasia off-ramp. So motorists coming out of Protea Glen up past the Sasol services on your way to Lenasia, heading to Joburg, very slow. And then you're into that high volume delay route on the N1 from the N12 Potch Highway as you come up through Eldo's Devlin and through towards Uncle Charlie's. Really busy through there. The N17 roadworks at Boxburg Road on your way to Joburg, slowing things up. The N3 roadworks, no change. Traffic queuing through towards the Buccleuch interchange territory. Durban, the traffic lights on the Komarshu Highway, Duffs Road and the N2, they are still down. We did warn there was extensive cable theft there. It's going to take them for a bit longer to fix that up. So just pressure in the morning coming out of Komarshu. The N2, the first of today's breakdowns between Spaghetti Junction and Umgeta Road. So you're queuing up through Inanda Road there. And a crash between Salt Rock and Shaka's Rock. So N2 Durban bound only has a single lane open as you sort of approach that Belito area. And Cape Town, a crash scene on the R300 going north just before Van Riebeeck Road. That's piling traffic back towards the Delft area. And the highway is looking busy, particularly N2 inbound, just queuing through Khayelitsha towards the R300. With your traffic update, I'm Rob Byrne.
The business update on SAFM.
All right, let's start the week with the first update from Dowling. Dowling, good morning to you. Happy Monday. Talk to me about Hammerson snapping up full control of British Mall, the Oracle.
Morning, Tulas. Now, the property company listed on the JSE but operating in the UK has taken full ownership of the Oracle after purchasing the remaining 50% stake from an Abu Dhabi investment authority subsidiary for about 2.38 billion rand. This gives Hamilton direct control of the centre has been repositioned the past few years and is now delivering stronger operating metrics. Oracle's turnaround is gaining traction. Occupancy has risen to 97%, supported by the redevelopment of the Puma House Fraser space and introduction of anchors TK Maxx and Hollywood Bowl. Footfall has strengthened as well, with third quarter visitor numbers at 20% and sales have improved consistently through the year. Major brands are committing even more space, with Zara and Apple planning significant store expansion this year. Acquisition is expected to lift Amazon's earnings by about 5% in 2026, making solid portfolio-wide.
And then let's talk in the retail space. Tell me about Mr. Price eyeing offshore growth.
So Mr. Price has signaled that its next phase of growth may come from outside of the country. The retailer says it has pinpointed overseas markets that match its requirements for size, stability, and long-term potential. It's been testing these markets since last year, independent research, local experts, and on-site assessments. No countries, however, have been named, but the group says a number of acquisitions prospects already meet its investment standards. The interest in expansion comes as the local economies have the local and strict the consumers way on Mr. Price's bottom line. CEO Mark Blair says group is focused on markets that can scale and offer dependable returns. Meanwhile, Mr. Price isn't taking its foot off the pedal at home. It has opened 91 stores in 6 months, taking its network over 3,100 outlets. Its 1.5 billion rand capital program and its fully formed cash is strengthening the supply chain, including a major youth center set to open
Lastly, Ling, recap for us how we closed on Friday and how we are looking as we start the week in the markets.
now. While U.S. Stocks rebound on Friday, they still experience the lowest levels in April. Looking at Friday's performance, though, the Dow Jones made the gains up for 1%. This, however, didn't feature due to local trade, with the JSE ending last week in the red. Green forces down 3.6%, leading to a 2% decline in the oil. Rand also on the back foot this morning as the dollar continues to strengthen. It's at 17.38 to the back. Oil taking a dip, extending Friday's losses and trading under $60 per barrel on the back of previous supply concerns with the US for a Russia-Ukraine deal. Mostly in Asia, that is, markets are mixed as traders digest Japan's stimulus package and official comments from officials. Rate cut.
All right, Ling, thank you for that. We'll touch base with you in the second hour of the show just after 7:30.
Africa Update on SAFM.
And for that, we turn to Advocate Sipho Mantula. Raz, good morning. Another day, another election somewhere on the African continent. It feels like there's a wave of these elections, electoral democracy thriving with different results, of course, in each and every country. Talk to me about the election in Guinea-Bissau.
Absolutely, to that's a refreshment and jump. I thought this was this G21 drinking tradition for the declaration to be issued on Saturday, not
Yeah.
on Sunday.
Did you see that? That threw all of us off, eh?
I think that was very good. Secondly, remember I spoke to you about you see the spirit of Ubuntu again.
I saw that.
Spiritual facing.
Absolutely.
Now, that philosophy of Ubuntu showing
Yes.
that this was not a meeting of 42 countries, the absence of it, but it's the connected broader that the challenge and the last that we see as again next. That was a very powerful one.
In Miami,
President
Florida.
Ramaphosa, for me, that he was not ignoring Trump. He was going to finish it now. Is that I think it was yesterday and morning of different. Here we are looking at full, I mean, fraction fullness of less than a million voters per week. That is president 100 members. The ECOWAS observers were there. I looked at it. You Philip Jacinto News, he was the head of to observer mission. And the ECOWAS also was led by Ambassador Baba Mara. So we'll wait and see till as you know that was only 12 candidates. Don't know whether Cisco Halo in so this is a man who attempted to that. in 2020. So we'll wait and see what will be the outcome today in now continuing what you have said. Democracy is democratization way moving in the the
And Bola Tinubu was a notable absence from the G20 Leaders Summit. He was meant to be one of the invited African heads of state, but had to postpone that. And that has to do with the crisis that you are going to tell us about that's playing itself out in some states in Nigeria.
Indeed, Tulas, he had to cancel that mission to come to the G20 and invite all them. But he has given a clear report, Tulas. Remember last week we spoke about the kidnapping of 2,500. That days after there was another kidnapping in the central Nigeria. 200 young people, Tulas, again. Also to the search forward. Bola Tinubu yesterday issued a report, Tulas, that the food worshippers who were abducted in the Kwara state have been rescued. And also the 51 missing students have also been recovered. Many 150 are still out there that leading to that being was kidnapped. This is a very serious concern that the president of the country has abandoned the national G20 summit to deal with what we call domestic security goals. Move closely to it maybe during this. Why this thing happened? And who are these kidnappers? What is it that they're seeking? If you look at the country area, we've spoken about it in last week about 2014 Boko girls. Now we are talking about the Kwara state and the Niger state.
Yeah. Let's turn to closer to home in Lesotho. Tell me about the process to try and constitute the Independent Electoral Commission. That's run into some legal trouble, hasn't it?
That is quite true, Tulas. But these are two candidates who are who had to go to the appointment, Tulas, of the commissioners. They have to be the electoral commission. The chief justice putting the matter next state will be held next month. He has put the appointment of the AEC commissioners in Lesotho in terms of Section 154 of their constitution. Those schoolers that there is a lot of competition towards those who have to be the midwives to power, because electoral management schoolers are what we do towards of. But once you have section there, you have to do the law in appointment, nomination have to be next. These are the people who have to deliver the electoral process in the kingdom.
Lastly, Sipo, take me to your historical archive. And you're not digging very deep into the archives. You're just going to 24 November 1995, but a very significant moment nonetheless.
That is quite true, Tulas. It's almost 50 years. This man was the mayor of Swani. They call him the Slow. He was the first black mayor that we have who came in 1990 votes of the ANC. Ramaphosa became the first for years, 1995 to 2000. There is a street in Swani named after him. I think it was supposed to be changed to Ramaphosa. So it is important to know that this was a Peter. He was the one who made sure that the whole city council of national politics and to look at. If we look now to that, where is the city underacting? Until today, the city of Swani under the opposition.
All right, thank you for that. That's Sipo Mandula with your Africa update for today.
Since December 2024, South Africa has proudly led the G20, guided by a powerful theme: solidarity, equality, and sustainability. From the heart of Africa, we're bringing fresh voices and bold ideas, united by a commitment to build a future where no one is left behind, where economies grow fairly, and where our planet's health guides every decision. South Africa's G20 Presidency 2025, together shaping tomorrow. This message is brought to you by the Department of International Relations and Cooperation.
The Minister in the Presidency for Women, Youth and Persons with Disabilities, Sindisiwe Chikunga, will on the 25th of November 2025 officially launch the 16 Days of Activism for No Violence Against Women and Children under the theme Litsema, Men, Women, Boys and Girls, working together to end gender-based violence and femicide. Tune in to The Talking Point, coming to you live from the launch at the Gallagher Estate in Gauteng. Thulasizwe Simelane is streaming live now on Facebook, YouTube, and X at SAFM Radio.
Indeed, we are. Let's start with your calls. I'm so keen to hear your reflections because, we were in go, go, go mode as we were telling the story of the G20 Leaders Summit unfolding right before our eyes in the last few days. So I've been keen to hear what your thoughts are, what you made of South Africa's hosting, and just the navigation of the diplomatic stage and the diplomatic coup, because that's what it is, really. In a situation where the US was saying, not only are we not attending, but actually the summit itself, despite all the other leaders being there, as many of them all sending their representatives at high levels of government, we still don't want that declaration to come out of Johannesburg. But instead of it being scuppered in that way, the declaration was actually adopted by unanimous, what overwhelming consensus is the word that was used by President Ramaphosa, and in a break from tradition, not adopted at the end of the summit, but rather right at the start before they got down to business. So let me hear what you made of it all. Pramoro in Bloemfontein, I'll start with you. Good morning.
Good morning, sir. How are you?
Very well. How are you?
Thank you. On behalf of the loyal listeners of this, thank you, the agency of the 20. Most of us wouldn't have the privilege to even with our this is what we expect Africa to do for the UN family. They should bring this to South Africa. Say some African story because this is a UN Canada. Nevertheless, the G20 summit, the hypocritical United States opted to develop all the programs, the activities, especially in the delegation. It was very overwhelming to witness the activity in country during and after the G20 summit. And what I the various municipalities to continue doing is to cut down on financing. The good that we saw during the summit will not derail. Keep it. Nevertheless, on behalf of Ghanaians, we applaud South Africa successful program. This clearly shows that that's what they do. The whole world is in Africa. The whole world is in South Africa. We applaud South Africa. Let's put our district each more people that is before the course comprehensive.
All
Thank
right.
you, Mr.
Pramoro, thank you for that. Pramoro out in Bloemfontein, just reflecting on the hosting of the G20 there over the weekend, over the last few days. Let me take some of your voice notes. I see someone here wants to talk about US bullying.
Good morning, Thulasizwe. Some countries that are big economically, they tend to bully those countries that they don't have a high economical output. I think that is what is happening with the current leadership of the USA. We are not the only victim to this. I think it is quite a number of countries that are actually victim to the US bully. And we should stand up and we should not accept this. Sekwanele Pretoria.
Sekwanele, thank you for that. Let me go to Sive in Gqeberha. Good morning to you, Sive. Also wanting to talk about the G20.
Yes, good morning, Thulasizwe.
Good morning.
Thulasizwe, we welcome the hosting of the G20.
Yeah.
Something very major for our country. But Thulasizwe, in the other corner, there was a no, and so we have not had the support. Past 8 years, we can say the players were not bringing. And coincidentally, bells are going to ring when the South African Communist Party is contesting what in the Makana Municipality for the first time.
Yeah.
So it's an indication that the arrival of the people
Eh.
is also the arrival of change in Makana.
Aye, Siva, you have to say more. Don't go away. Come back, come back, come back.
Yeah. So
How are you linking? Okay, I get your point and you touched on G20 and moved on. That's fine. But now the installation of a bishop and then the SACP.
no, leave it.
Eh,
I'm saying, what can for the first time the political parties,
uh-huh.
and if anything happens there, it's
Yeah.
and therefore there is a link that remember Makana is called the city of Spain.
Yes.
So now an Anglican saint has arrived, but the Anglican saint does not take away the work that has by the people the local bishop is.
Yes.
So Bishop Ngese is not going to be lonely in prayer, a movement of making sure that it goes back to the days.
But make the
On
point and
again,
finish it.
the more
Are you saying that the SACP will enjoy divine intervention in that upcoming ward election?
enjoy the divine intervention and make sure that the, the city of Spain is moved from the city
But
of
I thought
Ghana.
religion was something that the communists don't really
We, we
subscribe
live
to.
we live in Africa.
Yeah.
Our people, in their majority, live in the divine Lord, and we can't expose ourselves.
Gotcha.
Otherwise, we will remain isolated from the reality of this
All right, Siva. Thank you for that. That's Siva out in Gqeberha there, making linkages that did not naturally occur to me between the installation of a new bishop in Makana as well as the upcoming municipal by-election. I'll come back to more of your voice notes and your calls a bit later on.
SAFM, guiding you through the rush hour traffic.
Kick it off with a really important announcement. Van Riene's pass blocked again. There's been a big truck crash up the top end of the pass, sort of between the village and Pyramids Motel. The whole pass is obstructed, closed effectively, and traffic being stacked up. So if you're on the run south from Harry Smith area or north coming up from Escort Ladysmith side, you're heading to Van Riene's pass. You might want to just divert yourself along the R74, Olivier Souka pass, or otherwise just find the services, kick your feet up, have an extended sort of breakfast or breakfast number 2 or an early breakfast, whatever, and head out over Van Riene's a little bit later. If you sort of head that way now, you'll join the back of Operation Stack and you'll sit there until recovery has been done and the road has been reopened. So just avoid Van Riene's at this stage. Coming in from Lenasia, Protea Glen, the N12 still queuing up through the Sasol garages on your way to that first Lenasia exit. Then a bit more traffic up that N1 as you make your way through towards the Dibcliff interchange. N3 coming in from Sprateview and Leondale, very heavy queues up towards the Heidelberg Road off-ramp this morning. N3 north queuing into Buccleuch, the N12, which has been busy over the last few weeks, leaving Benoni just slow going down towards the Rondebolt Road exit side. Looks like some traffic lights out along Solomon Mishlangu in Pretoria East as you head down through sort of Garsfontein area. That looking very busy as well. Durban and inland areas wet after big rains last night. Just take it easy. Conditions are slippery, a lot of flooding, surface water, mud and debris across roads as well. A breakdown N2 south going in towards Spaghetti Junction, so delays coming through from Mgena Road side. Cape Town this morning, crash R300 northbound before Van Riebeeck Road. That traffic now parking back all the way through to Hindle Road in Delft and looking heavy. The rest of the highway networks are around Cape Town pretty busy, but fairly normal for a Monday. Rob Byrne, SAFM Traffic.
Every day, women and children live in fear. Fear in their homes, fear in their communities. But change begins when you speak out, when you take a stand for respect, for dignity, for love. This year's 16 days of activism for no violence against women and children, government calls on every South African to break the silence, report abuse, support survivors, educate our sons, empower our daughters. Together, we can build safer homes and stronger communities because ending gender-based violence starts with you. Stop the violence, break the silence. Every day for life. Brought to you by the Department of Women, Youth and Persons with Disabilities.
From the first bullet fired to the last betrayal uncovered, the battle for the Dutton legacy has left blood on the land and scars on every soul. We've seen loyalty tested, families torn apart, and enemies made in the name of power, pride, and survival. Now, as the dust settles and new threats rise, the question remains, how far will the Duttons go to protect their empire? Yellowstone, Season 5, the fight isn't over. It's just begun. Tuesdays at 7 p.m. only on S3.
Thulasizwe Simelane on SAFM.
Let's return to a story we covered a couple of weeks ago. The recent release of the Standard Bank Township Informal Economy Report and the insights that we are gleaning from that. Some strong commentary on that report from the National Secretary General of the National African Federated Chamber of Commerce, NAFCOC, Richard Zulu, who says, despite generating close to R1 trillion in annual activity, township enterprises continue to operate on the margins of an economy that refuses to acknowledge their value. As I told you, the 2025 Standard Bank Township Informal Economy Report exposing what Mr. Zulu says is a profound contradiction. The very businesses that sustain families, fuel local commerce, and drive grassroots innovation remain locked out of formal structures by design, he says. So let's speak to him. Richard Zulu joins me now to take that conversation forward. Good morning to you, and thank you for your time this morning. One of the key insights that came out from that report from Standard Bank on the township economy is the fact that nearly 80% of township businesses remain unregistered and excluded from mainstream economic structures, and access to credit and the likes continues to be a challenge. You are saying that that is not incidental, but it is by design. Why do you say that?
Good morning to Lasizwe, Thulasizwe Simelane, and good morning to us on the road to work. And we continue to act what contribute towards the trillion rand of economic activity. However, structural, our people are still operating in the periphery, not in the mainstream economy. And what that because in the country even today, there's a very cost township businesses is not and that our people have continued to be resilient and are continuing to.
So, what's behind the barriers that you are mentioning? I see that your critique includes um, the functioning and performance of institutions such as the IDC, for example.
Yes. We see, we note and see that FDI's country are not what, what they are established to do. And see, ITC, our observation is that this conflict is a serious area for black. There's a lot of litigated uh, access to funding like to parliament to try and raise and want to raise it regarding if from the mandate of IT to something we saw that implement county. I'm mentioning IT among some of these people. Apart from IT, both financial and non-financial support. Is what the thing is. So I was saying, Quran, let me continue
So you call for a number of reforms, and among them, perhaps you could talk to the proposed Township Business Relief and Empowerment Fund. How would that work?
You see, we in support of what the minister has said. When this development started, we followed that even later, eh, and how they start that fund. We're well calculated, but you see that now, there's little silence. Don't know where that now, but we continue to observe. Also observe that our recent trying to join the partnership agreement, we will want to have a 1.2 billion rand fund to support the community.
Yeah.
Fund. Believe unfortunately in the country, even today, those that are called entrepreneurs and then called. People get tenders, but it becomes very much tender because contract financing, who's in the country, but sometimes contracts that you cannot. That government so that let
Yeah. All right, let's leave it there for this morning. Thank you for your time. Richard Zulu is the Secretary General of the National African Federated Chamber of Commerce, NAFCOC. Let's go to Ann Musa on standby with the latest news.
Outsurance is in the business of saving you money on your car insurance premium. If they can't, ask for 500 Rand. SMS out to 30754. That's out to 30754.
In our top stories, two suspects arrested in undercover operation at Tembisa Hospital, and Nigeria's president strengthens law enforcement nationwide. Good morning. A Hawks member and a Tembisa hospital official are expected to appear in the Pretoria Magistrates Court today on charges of corruption. They allegedly attempted to bribe another Hawks officer who was part of a team investigating tenders at the hospital. Earlier in the year, the Special Investigating Unit revealed that billions of taxpayers' money was embezzled through tenders at the hospital. Hawks spokesperson Tandimbambo says the two suspects handed over 100,000 rand to the investigator, who was part of an undercover operation to nab them.
It is alleged that on Friday, 21 November 2025, a DPCI officer was approached by a 41-year-old suspect, a sergeant from the DPCI. The sergeant informed the officer that a 53-year-old Tembisa hospital official wanted to meet regarding an ongoing investigation linked to the hospital. The sergeant further indicated that the hospital official requested assistance and was willing to offer gratification in order to avoid prosecution in an ongoing investigation. On Sunday, the 23rd November 2025, the Hawks member and the Tembisa hospital official met with the complainant, who is the investigator in the case, and handed over 100,000 as gratification.
The National Director of Public Prosecutions, Advocate Shamila Batoy, is expected to continue to testify before the Nkabinde inquiry when it resumes in Pretoria today. The inquiry is looking into a suspended South Gauteng Director of Public Prosecutions, Advocate Andrew Chauke's fitness to hold office, following allegations that he obstructed key criminal prosecutions and shielded high-profile individuals from facing justice. On Friday, the inquiry announced an early adjournment after its team said some challenges were hindering its preparations. But the inquiry's chairperson, retired Justice Besin Gabinde, told the team to speedily address the challenges.
it will be proper that you work as a team to assist this inquiry. And we shouldn't be going back and forth the way we have done. And I think we have really given so much indulgences because things have not happened the way they ought to have happened. So I think in that spirit that we spoke about in chambers, that let us work towards a common goal. We are here to serve the country, to present evidence, to assist this inquiry.
The G20 Leaders Summit has ended with a joint declaration committing to multilateral cooperation. The declaration, which covers climate change, mitigation, and economic inequality, was adopted despite objections from the US, which boycotted the two-day summit, officially closing the summit at the Nasrec Expo Center in Johannesburg yesterday. President Cyril Ramaphosa said progress was also made in mobilizing finance for a just energy transition.
In this regard, South Africa introduced the high-level voluntary principles for investing in disaster risk reduction and encouraged international collaboration to strengthen investment in preventing and responding to disasters. Climate change touches every nation, but it impacts on everyone unevenly. That is why we have together pledged to increase the quality and the quantity of climate finance to developing economies, to strengthen multilateral development banks, and to unlock private capital.
3 people are believed to be missing, while several others have been left destitute in areas in the Mshwati municipality near Pietermaritzburg in KwaZulu-Natal. Heavy rains flooded their homes. The severe weather conditions follow a South African Weather Services warning. Provincial Cooperative Governance and Traditional Affairs Department spokesperson Sinzulu Mzila.
The Embassy for Culture in the province of KZN, Reverend Thulasizwe Simelane, has deployed disaster management teams to the Mshwati local municipality. This follows a tragic incident where 3 people are believed to have been swept away during a flooding incident that took place in the area on Sunday afternoon. Disaster management teams are on site and are working around the clock to locate the 3 missing people.
And finally, Nigeria's President Bola Tinubu has ordered the recruitment of an extra 30,000 police officers. This follows a spate of mass abductions. Tinubu's office has also announced that officers who are currently protecting VIPs will be redeployed. The BBC's Mieni Jones reports.
President Bola Ahmed Tinubu's redeployment of police officers comes as 50 of the 315 students abducted from a Catholic school in central Nigeria managed to escape from their captors. The president welcomed the news, adding that he was being briefed on the security situation across the country. A search and rescue operation is ongoing for the remaining students and 12 teachers who were abducted by armed men on Friday. Schools across a number of Nigerian states have been ordered to close following a spate of abductions in recent days.
Recapping the top story, a Hawks member and a Tembisa hospital official are expected to appear in the Pretoria Magistrates Court today on charges of corruption. They allegedly attempted to bribe another Hawks officer who was part of a team investigating tenders at the hospital. For SAFM News, I am Anne Musa.
Outsurance will go out of their way to try and save you money on your car insurance. If they can't, ask for 500 Rand. SMS out to 30754. That's out to 30754.
Looking for big savings? Looking for big savings this Black Friday? Well, Outsurance has got the deal. Get a quote, and if they can't beat your current car insurance premium, ask them for 500 Rand cash. Make that 1,500 Rand cash if you've been claim-free and with the same insurer for 3 years. You could get monthly premium savings or at least 500 Rand cash. Get more out. SMS out to 30754. That's out to 30754. Licensed insurer and FSP. T's, C's, and information online.
It's a very good morning to you in your SFM sports headline. Soccer action, Kaizer Chiefs still dealing with the fallout of their 2-1 loss to Al Masry in their CAF Confed Cup. Meanwhile, the Springboks are still buzzing after their Dublin victory. Details just before 7:30.
SAFM, guiding you through the rush hour traffic.
Good morning. Straight off the bat, we've got a big one. Funarinas Pass closed effectively. Traffic being stacked around a truck crash. A recovery operation. Lengthy queues north and southbound. If you are on your way to Joburg, coming up through Ladysmith Escort, heading towards Tugela, if you're coming down from Warden, Harry Smith, and the Free State towards Funarinas, you might want to detour via Olivier-Souk Pass, the R74. Just keep yourself moving that way between Harry Smith and Bergville. It's not a bad route these days. Otherwise, just find a services, pull over and have an extended breakfast, or have a first breakfast or a second breakfast, whatever the case is. Just delay getting into that mess that is Funarinas Pass at this stage. Down into Krugersdorp, west of Joburg, Paardekraal, very busy road. No traffic lights at Voortrekker. Traffic already backlogging in and out of that central Krugersdorp area. N3 north on the brakes, heavy from roundabout sort of Modderfontein Road up towards Beclu. Interchange as the roadworks bite there again. N3 north from Sprayview is very bad this morning as well. Durban, it is wet, it is slippery. Take it easy. A lot of rain last night. Pockets of flooding and surface water to watch for. N2 north queuing up at Prospect, and then from the M7 through Spaghetti Junction looking heavy. And Cape Town, it's a pretty busy Monday. Don't leave it too long to get into it. Crash on the R300 is the standout this morning. The crash between Stellenbosch Arterial and Van Riebeek. Quite a big backlog from the Delft side. With your traffic update, I'm Rob Byrne.
The Morning Brief with Thulasizwe Simelane. Weekdays, Monday to Friday, 6 to 9 a.m. The Morning Brief with Thulasizwe Simelane. Weekdays, Monday to Friday, 6 to 9 a.m.
Hey, good morning to you and welcome to it, the second hour of the Monday edition of the Morning Brief here on SAFM 104 to 107. It is absolutely great to be in your company, and I do look forward to taking more of your calls and WhatsApp messages and voice notes, largely reflecting on South Africa's hosting of the G20 Leaders Summit over the weekend, the adoption of a declaration in extraordinary fashion, in the sense that it was adopted straight off the bat, right at the start of the summit, as opposed to adoption at the end of the summit. And we're told it was done by, overwhelming consensus. So you'll know the context of it all is that there had been questions about whether or not it would this summit would emerge with a full leaders declaration, as opposed to a chair's statement, which comes out when there's been no consensus reached among the meeting leaders at the summit. But instead, very emphatically, putting multilateralism front and center of the agenda of the G20 by adopting that declaration right at the start. So we have a lot coming up in this hour. We will be speaking in the next few minutes to Dr. Mzwanele Ntshwanti, who is from the Institute for Economic Justice. And of course, we will later on speak to Vincent Magwenya, who speaks on behalf of the presidency, as well as report to you on a separate note on that court case, that those charges that we're told have been laid against Duduzile Zuma Sambudla by Nkosazana Zuma Mncube, the eldest daughter of former President Jacob Zuma, who's said to have laid charges against Duduzile Zuma Sambudla in relation to the fate of the 17 South African men who are trapped in the Russia-Ukraine war. Samgele Masego will come through and report for us on that story. As I said, your calls on 086 000 2032, 0614 104 107. All right, let's have the conversation. I'm relying on you because, I'm feeding off your energy. It's been a long week covering the G20 Leaders Summit, but I'm quite excited to be in your company this morning and hearing your views throughout the morning. All right, let's get into it. The second hour of the Morning Brief on this Monday.
Nothing beats the summer holidays, lazy pool days, ocean waves, festivals, food, and family fun. That special time is almost here, and with Fly Saturday's affordable, flexible fares, you can zoom off to SA's hottest spots. Sunshine guaranteed, worries not included. For big holiday savings, use our low fare finder to hunt down the best flight prices in just seconds. Don't be a bummer. Fly into summer. Book now at flysafair.co.za. Fly Safair, for the love of flying.
This week on BBC Primetime, watching TV could make you a winner. It's the BBC Primetime Watch and Win competition. Just tune into your BBC Primetime shows, answer a few simple questions on S3's TikTok account, and you could walk away with awesome prizes. From thrilling dramas to jaw-dropping reality shows, The more you watch, the more chances you have to win. Watch, answer, win. Only on BBC Primetime. Airs weeknights 9 to 11 p.m. on S3. Your couch just became the best seat in the game.
If you think you cannot afford a lawyer, think again. Clientele Legal has made professional legal services affordable. You receive up to 745,000 Rand worth of legal services per year. Our range of plans include cover for you, your spouse, children, and extended family. Plans include cover for civil, criminal, and labor-related matters. Whether it's protection orders, gender-based violence, uncontested divorce, or poor service, your Clientele Legal lawyer will be there to assist you. Our services are convenient. Simply pick up the phone and call your lawyer or send us an email and we'll get back to you. All plans include a bail benefit of up to 5,000 Rand and we'll go to the police station and pay it for you. Plus, Clientele Legal offers you 24-hour telephonic legal advice. SMS SAFM to 32195. That's SAFM to 32195. Clientele General is an authorized FSP and licensed non-life insurer. T's and C's online. Standard rates apply.
You are listening to the Morning Brief with Thulasizwe Simelane.
15 minutes after 7, President Cyril Ramaphosa is headed for Angola for the AU-EU summit, riding a wave of diplomatic triumph after closing the first ever G20 leaders summit to be held on African soil with the confidence of a host who pulled off a major multilateral win. After 2 intense days in Johannesburg, leaders signed a sweeping declaration that pushes for real money behind just energy transition financing, meaningful debt relief for poorer nations, and a new framework for responsibly managing the world's critical minerals. The summit also doubled down on commitments to climate action, gender equality, and securing peace for from Sudan to Ukraine. Let's get perspectives from Dr. Mzwanele Ntshwanti, G20 senior researcher at the Institute for Economic Justice. Good morning to you, Doc, and thank you for your time. Let's start with, I want to ask a question that says, it's quite easy for all of us as South Africans to be riding this this wave of patriotism, national pride, and say we did a good job, and perhaps even drink our own Kool-Aid. But if you were to take a step back and just objectively approach it, was this moment the triumph that many people are saying it was? The hosting of the G20, the way it ran, and the arrival at a declaration by overwhelming consensus.
Good morning, Thulasizwe, and thank you for having me. I think without a doubt, this was one of the grand outcomes of African G20 president. I think once again, South Africa was able to demonstrate capacity and its leadership, not only for itself, but the continent as well, to say that we are more than capable to host. I mean, the hosting of more than 67 heads of state um, arriving at a leaders declaration time global nationalism. And the fact that from the United States and the absence thereof of the United States in this many from around the world, even from international organizations, then just began to stand back and say, this is the many of them who were scared throughout the year, as you would know, people were being held in corners and didn't know how to move with this idea of multilateral cooperation. The leadership that South Africa demonstrated sort of said to many of them, okay, we will rally behind you. We are going to safeguard the forum that we've all been working with and thought it. So I think maybe it's the optics of it. We need momentum for a changing world where Africa plays a central role and really would not be able to see in a different manner.
Yeah, and then talk to me about the role of Africa in fora such as the G20. One of the features that has been noted about the leaders' declaration is the specific mention of the continent of Africa as opposed to talking about challenges faced by developing nations. Here you have the infusion of a specific region and the issues that affect that region in particular. And in fact, it goes as far as to mentioning Ubuntu quite a number of times, and a number of concepts are now named the Ubuntu principles on, food security, on infrastructure collaboration. How much of a victory and a triumph is that on its own?
As we're going through the processes, I thought this was one of the victories that you know, declaration from 2009. You've not had so much mention of Africa. Like you are saying, it would always be linked to the low-income countries or the middle-income countries. So focusing sort of like on all the regions, the states, the Latin American states, and developing economies. In fact, most of the declarations say developing economies. And at the time, we were dealing with an issue in the South African context, whether it was disaster risk management, whether it was food security, there would be a mention of South Africa. I mean, this declaration has partnership with Africa. So I think really there was so much emphasis on this. I was thinking as we were mentioning the AU summit coming up, and thinking about some of the channels through which the EU wants to partner with Africa. We're thinking about even the population that Africa has at this point in time. This is the most fast, fastest growing region in terms of young population and the people that are going to work. And if you think about, for instance, the population that Europe is having and the immigration problems they've been having, Africa is so much of an interest to them, even just for labor and market for demand and consumption. So I think that's why there's that real awakening and,
Yeah.
and so much interest to partner.
So we don't have enough time to go through. It's a 30-page declaration, which already is longer than the average, which, according to the SABC News research team, on average, the declarations are usually around 18.2 pages. So ours is 30 pages long. One or two highlights. Why does this matter to the ordinary South African, ordinary African? What are the key victories that were scored on some of the priorities?
Um, we certainly have on 6,000 around, and I hope that we would know, for instance, artisanal miners in South Africa in the region as well. That have, of course, not been owning the means of production and have not been mainstream in the mining. I think almost all the mining companies that we have in South Africa are American owned. So that's one of the good things for us to come up to say that we are going to need our departments now. And young people are going to have to hold them accountable in terms of investing to ensure that the young people in this country and in the region are going to be incorporated, going to be empowered intentionally to make sure that they participate in the value chain. Disaster resilience is one is also an important one because the idea was also to look at our municipalities and how our municipalities are capacitated to deal with the disaster issues. For instance, we had them in Kataflat. You always have these recurring disasters with KZN. So that focus at the municipal level to capacitate our people to be able to respond to disasters. And this is going to obviously require the infrastructure to respond, the capacities to respond, the health facilities to respond, etc. So I hope that in the planning of municipalities and provincial level, we're going to begin to incorporate that and then be able to draw from other countries the technical know-how, but also the investment. Because, for instance, EU countries not only look at the response to disaster, but they're also looking at mitigation and adaptation. We need to get to that level as well at a local level.
All right, let's leave it there for this morning. Thank you for your time, Dr. Mzwanele Nchwanti, who is G20 Senior Researcher at the Institute for Economic Justice.
This is Lungi on any other regular day.
This economy makes me post once a day. Who does that? Like, ew.
Now this is Lungi getting extra with the 20 gig summer deal for just 99 Rand.
I have so many gigs. I could even have a gig, guys. I'm going live every single day to me because get
Extra your summer. Get 20 gigs plus 2 months free YouTube Premium and 100 Vodabucks exclusively on the VodaPay app. T's and C's apply. Further together, Vodacom.
What's one more thing you can do for a child today? Could it be one clinic visit for their next vaccination?
Or say something that will really tickle my brain.
Maybe one healthy lunchbox snack to fuel their day.
Or say something that makes me feel good about myself.
Or one strong no to alcohol in your home.
Just one thing today could change our tomorrow. Visit holdmyhand.org.za.
Zonwabise Resort Holdings, which is the empowerment partner of the Sun Boardwalk Hotel and Casino in Gqeberha, urgently requires important information from its shareholders. If you are a shareholder and have not received the recent email, please kindly contact the admin office either by email at zonwabiseresorts@gmail.com or call 041 368 1792.
Thulasizwe Simelane on the Morning Brief. Weekdays, Monday to Friday, 6 to 9 a.m.
All right, 25 minutes after 7. Let's take you to that story now where this unprecedented and deep public rift has erupted within the Zuma family after Nkosazana Bonganini Zuma Mncube laid criminal charges against her sister Duduzile Zuma Sambudla over the recruitment of 17 South African men now trapped in the Russia-Ukraine war. Zuma Mncube alleges that her sister and 2 others deceived the men into traveling to Russia under false pretenses, where they were reportedly handed over to a mercenary group operating in eastern Ukraine. Let's speak to Samgele Masego, political reporter here at the SABC. Good morning to you, Samgele. It's been a curious story, but it just got even more complex with the revelations that are coming through from the statement from Nkosazana Bonganini Zuma Mncube. Tell me a bit more about the laying of the charges and what she reveals in that statement that she issued yesterday.
A very good morning, Tulas. Indeed, Nkosazana Bonganini Zuma Mncube, the eldest daughter of former President Jacob Zuma, sister Duduzile Zuma, has indeed laid charges against Zuma Sambudla, the sister and Sipogazi. For instance, says that she's laying charges, quote, having considered all the information available to me and the fact these 3 individuals have contravened the following laws: Prevention and Conducting of Trafficking in Persons Act, Regulation of Foreign Military Assistance, Law, Fraud, urge that implement to exercise diplomatic terms for citizens. Furthermore, I call on all citizens to be vigilant individuals offering too good to be true opportunities abroad, especially those involving travel to conflict zones. That's the statement by the eldest daughter of Jacob Zuma. But among these 17 men, requesting South African government assistance as my family members. 8 of them are her family members. And that is going to be rather complex because Jacob Zuma, the former president, recently in Russia with his head of Zambia. One wonders if they were also trying to facilitate the return of these particular 17 men. There are voice notes that have been sent to the family that have had an opportunity to listen to, but it does certainly look and seem like there's a rift between the children of former President Jacob Zuma.
Yeah, all right. Let's leave it there, Samgele. We'll come back to that story. I'm pretty sure about that. Samgele Masego, fresh off covering the G20 Leaders Summit and back to the domestic politics and how they're playing themselves out in relation to that story. More reporting will be coming through on it.
This is SAFM Sport with Zai Khan.
Good morning. Let's kick off with Kaizer Chiefs and their 2-1 loss to Al Masry in their CAF Confed Cup opener, which has triggered debate about whether Gaston Sereno's absence cost them in the final third. Dylan Solomons pulled Chiefs level after they conceded a penalty, but a late defensive error handed the Egyptians the winner. Chiefs now look to regroup quickly ahead of their next Group D match. Stellenbosch FC started their campaign on a high with a 1-0 victory over AS Atoho at the Peter Mokaba Stadium. Real Madrid have apologized after mistakenly using a photo of the wrong footballer in a tribute video honoring the late Diego Jota and his brother Andre Silva. The tribute shown during the club's General Assembly incorrectly featured a picture of the Elche forward Andre de Silva, sparking widespread criticism. Elsewhere, we've also got the Springboks and their 24-13 win over Ireland in Dublin being hailed as another statement from the world champions. It was a brutal box scrum which terrorized the Irish front row, while Malcolm Marx capped a monster performance on the same weekend. He was named World Rugby's Player of the Year.
But to be fair, none of this is sort of achieved without the team environment we have, without the management, without the players. We are a tight-knit group, and things like this happen when, of course, you have a group that we have. So, in my opinion, this isn't, for me, just an individual award. I think it's more a team award because support and the structures that we have for guys to express themselves is unbelievable. So it's not just for me, that's for our team, it's for South Africa.
More rugby. Scotland wrapped up their Autumn Nations series with a 56-0 win over Tonga at Murrayfield. And finally, motorsport. McLaren team principal Andrea Stella has apologized after both Lando Norris and Oscar Piastri were disqualified from the Las Vegas Grand Prix. Post-race inspection found their skid blocks were below the minimum depth. Norris had originally finished second behind Max Verstappen with Piastri fourth. Details, more sport, top of the hour. I am Zai Khan.
I'm Anne Musa. Good morning. In the headlines, a family member of one of the 17 South African men trapped in Ukraine has criticized the government for failing to repatriate them. Yesterday, former President Jacob Zuma's daughter, Nkosazana Bonganeni Zuma Ncube, opened a criminal case against her sister, Duduzile Zuma Sambudla, as well as Sipokazi Kluma and Blessing Koza, relating to the matter. A Hawks member and a Timbisa hospital official are expected to appear in the Pretoria Magistrates Court today on charges of corruption. They allegedly attempted to bribe another Hawks officer who was part of a team investigating tenders at the hospital. And the KwaZulu-Natal Human Settlements Department says it will visit communities that heavy rainfall has affected in the Mshwati municipality this morning. I'll have details on these and other stories at 8.
SAFM, guiding you through the rush hour traffic.
Good morning. A reminder, top story. Funrinans Pass currently blocked with a truck crash and recovery underway. Major delays. Nothing getting through. The crash between Funrina Village and the Pyramids Motel, so sort of top of Funrinas, but really heavily backed up getting up through there today. Joburg side, the N3 North coming in through Sprayview remains heavy. A crash also in from the south on the R59 at Swartkoppes Road, so that's quite a heavy queue there. The N12 out of Protea Glen through to Lenasia remains heavy, and the N3 North and south, north of Buccleuch, south of London Road, queuing up into the road construction area. Durban, the N2 coming north from the M7 into Spaghetti Junction is heavy this morning. M13 leaving Pine Town, quite a backlog from M7 St John's Avenue through towards Paradise Valley. First of today's breakdowns at Key Ridge, if you're on your way to Pietermaritzburg, that's slow. And Cape Town, that collision on the R300 before you get to Van Riebeeck Road, pushing a heavy queue right the way back through to Delft. It's back towards the N2. M5 worth a mention as well. You'll sit from Kenilworth all the way through to the Kuberg interchange. With your traffic update, I'm Rob Byrne.
The business update on SAFM.
Let's say good morning once again to Dowling Lechela for the second update of the morning. Dowling, let's start in mining. Tell me about BHP abandoning its renewed Anglo interest. And you're saying this is coming ahead of a critical tech vote.
Yes. Now, this all happened in the space of 3 days over the weekend while we were really busy with B20 deals and talks were taking place in the mining sector, BHP has now stepped away from the idea of combining with the Anglo-American, pending early discussions with Anglo's board. Initially, reports of renewed interest hit markets on Friday, quite positive. In terms of the abandoned bid, the key maintains the proposal carried major strategic upside, but says it's backing its own growth plans instead. The second time, BHP has explored with Anglo after last year's nearly $50 billion bid was rejected. Analysts say the renewed interest shows how seldom assets of Anglo's scale come into play. Also adds a layer of uncertainty around BHP. Now, the move comes just as Anglo pushes ahead, including a proposed $60 billion merger with Canada's Tech Resources to create a major copper firm, with shareholders of both companies set to vote on that deal in under 3 weeks. BHP's exit is fast and puts the spotlight back on whether Anglo and Tech can dot all the I's and cross all the T's.
And it's going to be a big week for Salsi.
Yeah.
It's their week for listing on the JSE, yeah?
Yeah, so see, we'll push ahead. The JSE debut slated for Thursday at a lower valuation, cutting its offer price to 26 Rand 50 per share. The revised price, which was finalized after the book close, the mobile operators expected market cap at about 9 billion rand, well below 10, 12 billion rand implied when shares were initially marketed at 29 rand, 5 rand 50. Downgrade in valuation told investors with Google's share price falling more than 50% following the announcement. Chelsea aims to raise up to 6.5 billion rand in a private placement of as many as 100 shares, representing over half total equity. Company will list in the telecom subsector with the likes of Vodacom and Telkom. The move comes after a restructuring designed to simplify its capital structure and prepare it for a life traded marks the first major telecoms IPO on the JSE shares comes after a prolonged turnaround effort to stabilize the balance sheet and position it for growth. We're all just waiting to see how well Chelsea does when it moves on Thursday.
Yeah. How are the markets looking at this hour, Dowling?
So Asian markets are mostly in the green this morning. Round after last week's sharp sell-off. Traders are also bracing for earnings from Alibaba, and that optimism has the Hong Kong Hang Seng leading regional gains, 1.7%. US futures are also pointing higher, though the upside may be limited as investors await heavy slate of data this week, including GDP, inflation, and consumer confidence figures, all key readings on the health of the US economy and consumer. Meanwhile, back home, the days really under pressure next week with the OPEC closing lower precious metal prices. The rand also on the back, kicking off the, on a downbeat low at 17.5 greenback strengthens. Oil also softer, down 0.15% this hour at $1 a barrel.
All right, Dowling, thank you for that. Dowling Lechela will come back with one more update for you after 8:30, in which update, of course, as she always does, she'll give you a sense of the kind of trading day you can expect on this Monday.
When love turns to hate and hate turns to violence, the truth is never simple. In Love and Hate Crime Season 2, real stories expose the dark side of human emotion, where identity, passion, and prejudice collide. Powerful, unflinching, unforgettable. These are the crimes that challenge what we think we know about love and humanity. Thursdays at 10 p.m. only on S3. S3, open up.
Access to the internet is vital for any country to grow. That's why the recent 6.75 billion rand digital infrastructure deal that Standard Bank Corporate and Investment Banking facilitated between Telkom and an Actis-led consortium is so transformational for South Africa. It unlocks growth and provides internet access to underserved communities who will now have access to the internet for the very first time. Search CIB Stories of Impact to watch the full story.
Standard Bank is an authorized FSP and registered credit provider. T's and C's apply.
Nothing beats the summer holidays, lazy pool days, ocean waves, festivals, food, and family fun. That special time is almost here, and with Fly Saturday's affordable, flexible fares, you can zoom off to SA's hottest spots. Sunshine guaranteed, worries not included. For big holiday savings, use our low fare finder to hunt down the best flight prices in just seconds. Don't be a bummer. Fly into summer. Book now at flysafair.co.za. Fly Safair, for the love of flying.
Thulasizwe Simelane is streaming live now on Facebook, YouTube, and X at SFM Radio.
All right, let's continue with those reflections on the recently held G20 Leaders Summit, which was the first G20 Leaders Summit to be held on African soil. Lots of reflection about President Cyril Ramaphosa and his leadership of that summit, about the extraordinary moments that played themselves out, including the adoption of a fully fledged G20 leaders declaration as opposed to a chair's statement which would have been the outcome had there been no consensus in the room among the countries that were gathered there. Let's speak to presidential spokesperson Vincent Makwenya, who joins me now. Vincent, good morning and thank you for your time. So a lot of commentary going in sort of frames it as I saw one of the newspapers led with a bloodied nose for Donald Trump in the way that consensus was reached and the declaration delivered. But I also noted that there was almost a deliberate attempt on the part of the president and other leaders of the G20 to not make this about the United States, but to be about multilateralism, triumph for multilateralism. Am I correct in reading it that that was the intention, that to reinforce and reaffirm multilateralism, but if it gives the United States a bloodied nose, no one minds. You certainly don't mind.
Well, good morning to this and good morning to your listeners. Now, secondly, I think you're so summit from the point of view, terms of people as well as currency, line with it. All of this where there was alignment on and was consensus around, I think this is bilateral President Tell on how this momentum is being some of which or many of which are part of the system.
Yeah. In fact, say a bit more about those bilaterals and the conversations that happen. I keep referring to the adoption of the Leaders Summit at the start as opposed to at the end of the summit, which, already countered some of the speculation that was asking whether or not it was possible to reach consensus. What happened there, Vincent? How did we have a declaration signed, sealed, delivered at the start? What did President Ramaphosa do in the 24, 48 hours leading up to the opening session?
Well, at first, what happened when President was critical, set positive tone for the summit and further bilateral following that process with leaders of France, leaders of the United Kingdom, and I believe was a sense that it will be important now that the circle is complete, on a had that resolved computer derived plan, which will then that's far more positive thing for the entire family, which is happen. Feeling that they go out the entire
What was the give and take? I mean, I read the declaration, 30 pages long, a bit more, a bit longer than the average in terms of declarations of G20 leaders summits, but nevertheless, a lot of infusion of the African continent, centering the African continent, and direct mentions of the African continent, including philosophies such as Ubuntu being infused into it. But what was the give and take? Where did we have to compromise in order to have this agenda that centers Africa adopted by everyone?
insurance, we all know that it's a declaration, no need to find documents. Team cases of commitment, payment, commitment, holding accountable. Those that yes, the in terms of wording, in terms of perspective, finding what one has not anything and then checking the important is in terms of that base need that
It's while the leaders did not want to foreground the absence of the United States, it's certainly an issue that can't be ignored, especially now that we have to navigate the handover of the G20 presidency. It's being done in an extraordinary manner in the sense that you already made it clear that the president wasn't going to hand over to a charge d'affaires of the United States. Tell me how you foresee that happening and the implications thereof of the bilateral relationship with the United States. Already, one of the spokespeople at the White House already saying that, we're prevaricating in terms of the handover of the presidency.
well, Julius, it's been an extraordinary diplomatic year with respect to our bilateral relations. Where diplomatic sort of life never been our own doing, but one that we had to respond to ever so constructively. And there is no way that you need to promote in the economy. And it is important that when you read something, you know, other areas of bilateral relations that are constructive, that are forward looking, seeing the amount of businesses and sellers a long-term view. They're looking at South Africa and the rest of the continent structures in temporary sort of fixing. Going to be employed to iron out whatever issues we may have with them. So we're not
operating around G20 going forward as part of the project.
All right, thank you for that. Vincent Magwenya, presidential spokesperson, reflecting on the G20 Leaders Summit, which was held in Johannesburg over the last 2 days.
SAFM, guiding you through the rush hour traffic.
A little bit of a change at Van Riemen's. Keep in mind the N3 Van Riemen's pass was closed due to a big truck crash that happened earlier this morning. They managed to open a right lane on the northbound side, so that'll start to slowly ease up the northbound. Southbound still fairly blocked up. They might put a stop-go. I'm not sure about the arrangements through there, but there are queues both ways over Van Riemen's pass as we come live to you. Coming out of Pretoria, it's a high-volume Monday with a breakdown by Rigel Avenue. Traffic all the way back through to the N4, Emelefeni, that run down through Linwood, Garsfontein, Atterbury sort of area, very slow going. Big traffic on Allendale this morning, coming away from Klipfontein View and Kluerkop. Big backlogs on your way through to Midrand. N12 from Benoni through Boksburg stays busy, and it's a pretty relentless queue on the N3 coming up from the Spruitview side up towards Heidelberg Road on your way into Joburg as well. Breakdown between Key Ridge and Cliffdale. If you're on your way to Pietermaritzburg, that remains a problem. Further up, a breakdown between Ashburton and Market Road, so a second queue to work through there as well. Crash scene at Paradise Valley. It's on the M13. That's why the traffic out of Pinetown this morning through to the N3 and the N3 heading into Durban, approaching Paradise Valley. That's why those highways are so backed up. You've got that crash at Paradise Valley, which effectively impacts both of those routes through the Pinetown area. Cape Town, fairly heavy for a Monday, coming back in through Somerset West, the N2, in towards that Gans Park area of Somerset West, very slow. N2 inbound, big traffic this morning from Spine Road, Khayelitsha, through to the R300. And as you get into the R300, you just head all the way through to a point, an earlier crashing between Stellenbosch Arterial and Van Riebeek. So basically that queue to get up to sort of Belleville, Brackenfell territory on the R300 effectively starts right back on the N2 inbound at Spine Road. N7 pretty heavy both ways, southbound Plattercliff down to N1 and the N7 north from Goodwood up to Bosmansdam Road. With your traffic update, I'm Rob Byrne.
Since December 2024, South Africa has proudly led the G20, guided by a powerful theme: solidarity, equality, and sustainability. From the heart of Africa, we're bringing fresh voices and bold ideas, united by a commitment to build a future where no one is left behind, where economies grow fairly, and where our planet's health guides every decision. South Africa's G20 presidency 2025, together shaping tomorrow. This message is brought to you by the Department of International Relations and Cooperation.
This November, step into a world few have ever seen. From the smallest creatures on epic adventures in big little journeys, starting 2nd November, to the frozen frontiers of our planet in Frozen Planet 2, starting 23rd November. Every Sunday at 6 p.m., discover beauty, danger, and the magic of life on Earth like never before. The best in nature dockies, only on S3. S3, open up.
Call Thulasizwe now, 086 000 2032.
All right, let's continue to reflect on the G20 Leaders Summit. I'm joined by Elizabeth Sideropoulos, the Chief Executive of the South African Institute of International Affairs. Good morning to you, Elizabeth, and thank you for your time. My goodness, have you and I been spending a lot of time the last few days?
I'm still recovering.
I've been saying that I'm relying on the listener community to carry me today because it's really been intense. And I can only imagine how intense it's been for you because you were very close and actually within the circles that were part of the broader infrastructure that was preparing for the G20. Was it the diplomatic triumph that we South Africans are proudly projecting it to have been?
I think it was. Even a few hours before the president announced there had been a declaration, I think there was concern that we might, in effect, not be able to arrive at a declaration. The leaders gathered in Nazareth concerned about how the US might respond and so on and so forth. So I think it was a diplomatic. So that the fact that we had a declaration I think was a diplomatic. I think that in the preceding days, both South Africa's diplomats and the rest of the G20 Sherpas around the table in the Sherpa meeting were able to arrive at a negotiated text that all of the countries and all of the members in the room, and indeed the guest countries, could agree on, that could then be taken to the leaders. I think was also really a reflection both of the spirit of cooperation, notwithstanding which were areas where there were serious disagreements, but also
So, I mean, let's talk a bit more about that, the adoption of the declaration. The reporting coming out suggests that the US actually attempted to lobby certain countries to ensure that they don't give the consensus that was required. What does it say that it was adopted right at the start? What does it say about, if we frame this conversation to not just be about South Africa and the United States, but how the other countries viewed the attitude of the United States towards this summit?
I think it was we saw very clearly in many of the statements, both in the plenary, but then also in interviews that various leaders gave, that they saw this the summit, the fact that it was also the first summit on African soil, as giving making an important affirmation of the fact that multilateralism and cooperation to arrive at an area where we can disagree can work and are important. I think leader after leader really emphasized that, and some, I think President Lula said that, I think in one of his press conferences, that multilateralism is important. It does work. What we have to do now, of course, is make sure that we convert what we are saying into action. And I think that is a very important point, not just for the G20 to consider, but indeed for all multilateralism, the ability to show that these meetings, these decisions committed by heads of state are actually meaningful, and they're meaningful, and they're able to impact on countries, development, growth, prosperity, and ordinary people.
So, South Africa had sought to make this a G20 for Africa and the global south. What did we mean by that, and to what extent did we achieve that?
The great thing about being president of, even if it's just for a year of a grouping like the G20, is that you get to set the agenda. You don't, the outcome is a negotiated outcome. All members are equal. You get to set the agenda. And what is clearly reflected in South Africa's agenda is the concerns of Africa and other developing economies. Of course, global South, is a very diverse grouping. I mean, but if we look at the focus on that, sustainability, obviously a really major concern for many African countries. Many countries pay more to service their debt, the allocated to education and health, the issue of just energy transition, and sort of scaling up more finance, but not just scaling up finance, but also looking at the quality of this finance. Is it all, is it consensual? Are there grants given? What is the maturity of these loans, and so on. The other important element related to disaster risk resilience, we know that many African countries, including our own, have to face the negative effects of a changing climate, and how do economies deal with it. And of course, then the big issue of critical minerals. A couple of documents have come out in that regard. It's about creating partnerships and frameworks that enable critical minerals to be part of the beneficiation process of critical minerals to benefit the countries in which these minerals are found, rather than pure extraction and export to other countries who then benefit from this value add. These are all critical issues that developing countries across the world are facing.
Yeah. And then lastly, the transition then from South Africa's presidency to the United States presidency. All of these items you mentioned, well, not all, most of them are developmental in nature, and they have to do with the big other issues that perhaps could be a constraint on the global economy. The US has already set its agenda. It says it will be about economic growth, deregulation, and energy. And you get the feeling that when they say energy, for example, they're not talking just energy transition and all of that climate resilience and everything that you just mentioned. What are the implications for follow through from Johannesburg Declaration in South Africa to the United States, Miami, Florida?
You're quite right. I think it will be a G20 in terms of as well as in terms of content. I mean, they are paring it down, reducing the areas they're going to be focusing on, including a number of meetings, and obviously issues like climate change are not really going to feature on the agenda. But the fact is that the G20 is always not just about the 1 year that you're presiding over it. You have a set of outcomes from each summit that sometimes take several years to come to full fruition. The example I use a lot these days, but it's not the only one, is, for example, the decision around being able to scale up the multilateral development bank finance, which really began about 4 or 5 years ago in 2021. That was a process. Probably were, in terms of how it was rolled up, back and forth and sort of a couple of steps back and a couple of steps forward. But, we're in a better place than we were 4 or 5 years ago. What we need to do is both as South Africa and I would argue as Africa, to sort of pick up a few of the points that were in the declaration or initiatives that we undertook, like, for example, the work on inequality, and drive them in other forums during the course of next year. Ultimately, the G20 is almost like a clearinghouse. It's the platform from which you have decisions, and then you can take them into the formal processes. And that's what I think our challenge is, and the opportunity for us next year. And then, of course, we'll see what happens in 2027 with when the UK takes over.
All right. Thank you for that. Thank you for your time and your insights. Now you can get some much deserved rest. Elizabeth,
Not really.
it never stops, does it? Elizabeth Sideropoulos, Chief Executive of the South African Institute of International Affairs. Let's go to N. Musa on standby with the latest news.
Outsurance is in the business of saving you money on your car insurance premium. If they can't, ask for 500 Rand. SMS out to 30754. That's out to 30754.
In our top stories, the fate of 17 South Africans trapped in Ukraine, and French President praises South Africa for hosting a successful G20 summit. Good morning. A family member of one of the 17 South African men trapped in Ukraine has criticized the government for failing to repatriate them. Yesterday, former President Jacob Zuma's daughter, Nkosazana Bonganini Zuma Ncube, opened a criminal case against her sister, Duduzile Zuma Sambudla, as well as Sipokazi Nxuma and Blessing Koza relating to the matter. Zuma Ncube has accused all three of contravening the law. She claims the men were lured to Russia under false pretenses and were handed to a Russian mercenary group to fight in the Ukraine-Russia war. Sandile Ndlovu is the brother of one of the men.
They were recruited in the name of they are going to get training for bodyguards, or may I say their protection. So they were recruited by the Blessing Koza and also the President Zuma. And so guys will do the training in Russia. So it's if I'm not mistaken, of child government, and actually want to get hold of the one government on this issue. But so far, things have been heard.
A Hawks member and a Tembisa hospital official are expected to appear in the Pretoria Magistrates Court today on charges of corruption. They allegedly attempted to bribe another Hawks officer who was part of a team investigating tenders at the hospital. Earlier in the year, the Special Investigating Unit revealed that billions of taxpayers' money was embezzled through tenders at the hospital. Hawk spokesperson Tandimbambo says the two suspects handed over 100,000 rand to the investigator, who was part of an undercover operation to nab them.
It is alleged that on Friday, 21 November 2025, a DPCI officer was approached by a 41-year-old suspect, a sergeant from the DPCI. The sergeant informed the officer that a 53-year-old Tembisa hospital official wanted to meet regarding an ongoing investigation linked to the hospital. The sergeant further indicated that the hospital official requested assistance and was willing to offer gratification in order to avoid prosecution in an ongoing investigation. On Sunday, the 23rd November 2025, the Hawks member and the Tembisa hospital official met with the complainant, who is the investigator in the case, and handed over 100,000 as gratification.
The KwaZulu-Natal Human Settlements Department says it will visit communities heavy rainfall has affected in the Mshwati municipality this morning. 3 people were swept away during the floods caused by the heavy rainfall. Houses and road infrastructure have also been destroyed. The South African Weather Service has issued a severe warning for the province. The department's MEC, Sibuniso Duma.
We send the rescue team back. Now we who unattended because the families were there while that was put in time.
French President Emmanuel Macron has commended South Africa for hosting a successful G20 Leaders Summit. The 2-day summit, which ended yesterday, was held in Africa for the first time. Macron spoke to the media on the sidelines of the summit at the Nasrec Expo Center in Johannesburg.
The first G20 summit in our history on the African continent. And by itself, it's a great achievement. And I think South Africa can be proud of this achievement. Second, this is as well a summit where African Union has a seat, which is a very important achievement as well, in the recognition of Africa as a whole and Africa as being part of these nations to decide for themselves and for the future.
And finally, preliminary results from Slovenia's referendum on assisted dying indicate that voters have rejected the legislation. It would have allowed adults capable of making their own decisions the right to end their lives voluntarily. That's if they suffered unbearably due to a serious incurable illness or other permanent health impairment. This man opposed the legislation.
This sent a message to the whole world that we Slovenians know how to alleviate suffering in a way other than offering a lethal dose. So this is a big message to the whole world.
Recapping the top story, a family member of one of the 17 South African men trapped in Ukraine has criticized the government for failing to repatriate them. For SAFM News, I am Anne Musa.
Outsurance will go out of their way to try and save you money on your car insurance. If they can't, ask for 500 Rand. SMS out to 30754. That's out to 30754. You could spend 10 minutes waiting for that file to download. Or get a 10-minute quote from Outsurance that could save you thousands on your car insurance. For his 2024 Ford Ranger, 57-year-old Andy now pays only 1,083 Rand a month. And for her 2020 Hyundai Tucson, 48-year-old Felicity pays just 836 Rand a month. Ready to get more out of your car insurance? SMS out to 30754. That's out to 30754. Outsurance, licensed insurer and FSP. TCs and information online.
It's a very good morning to you in your SFM Sports Headlines. Live cricket underway. South Africa firmly on top in the second test in Guwahati. After posting 489, the Proteas of India in deep trouble at 109 for 5. And in rugby, the Springbok centre Jesse Creel says the team won't dwell on their win over Ireland. They'll move on to Wales. Details just before 8:30.
SAFM, guiding you through the rush hour traffic.
Morning. We started Pretoria with a couple of breakdowns a little bit earlier on the M1 South in Monday high volumes down around Garsfontein. Looks like the final one there just by Linwood Road, still pushing a traffic queue back through to Stormful. If you're heading south from Montana, it is busy. N4 going in from Watermeer towards Hatfield. There's a very heavy backlog and no lights at Fountain Circle. R21 inbound to the circle quite heavy. N3 coming out of Spruitview, still queuing up towards Heidelberg Road on your way to Joburg. Mike 1's pretty heavy this morning from Melrose up towards Greyston Drive. Update from Van Rynen's Pass. Traffic is starting to move. There was a big truck crash this morning which closed the highway. The Durban bound side's open and one lane's open on the northbound. So northbound has a heavy backlog, southbound slow, but traffic is starting to move through the area. Still that crash between Salt Rock and Shuckers Rock on the N2 to Durban, so that's a bit slow. Crash at Paradise Valley means the N3 and M13 routes coming out of Pinetown remain heavy. And Cape Town, that collision from earlier this morning on the R300 northbound after Stellenbosch Arterial. Heavy traffic. It effectively backs from the N2 inbound Spine Road onto the R300 all the way through Delft to Kales River. With your traffic update, I'm Rob Byrne.
The Morning Brief with Thulasizwe Simelane. Weekdays, Monday to Friday, 6 to 9 a.m. The Morning Brief with Thulasizwe Simelane. Weekdays, Monday to Friday, 6 to 9 a.m.
10 minutes after 8. Welcome to the third hour of the morning brief on this Monday. It's great to be in your company. Let's continue with the conversations, your reflections on the G20, but also let's come back to reality, right? Slowly but surely return to the reality of the many issues that we continue to grapple with. So I'm open to hearing from you about any of those matters. G20, some of what we've reported around the case that has been laid against Duduzile Zuma Sambudla and any other matters that may be on your mind this morning. In fact, let me start with one or two of your messages. Lindiwe says, with regard to the G20, government is treating Operation Dudula like lepers, undesirables, Ebola carriers, etc. Dudula was pushed to a far and isolated place to hide the truth as if all is well in South Africa. Ramaphosa is putting a clean bandage over a septic wound with maggots, says Lindiwe, regarding that protest and picket that took place with Operation Dudula members. I think it was on Saturday, on day one of the Leaders Summit, the G20 Leaders Summit. To be fair, Lindiwe, you go to any of these international conferences, any of them, you will not get anywhere within a kilometer or thereabouts of the actual venue. So I don't know what triggered the firing of tear gas. I was too far from it and really concentrating on other things. But I did hear a cry that says they wanted to get closer. That was never going to happen. Let's be frank and honest with one another. That was just never going to happen. You are dealing there with a security situation where you have no less than 40 heads of state and government with differing security protocols, levels of tolerance. At all these international conferences, certainly the ones I've covered, you always pushed far. I mean, the media, we were parking at FNB Stadium and being shuttled to the venue, and even they're contained to the media area. It's restricted access. So let's just be fair and honest with one another. The issues continue to be relevant and they will continue to be raised. I have no doubt Operation Dudula will continue to march and picket about those issues. But to think you were going to get close to the venue of the G20, I honestly don't think it was ever going to happen. Someone else here says, please find someone from AfriForum to share their opinions on the G20 in South Africa. Is there anything that didn't go accordingly in inverted commas, and might go to be reported to America, says that person, and says that question should be posed to AfriForum. And then someone else says, this is Saber Ahmed Jazbai, who says, Mr. President, I hold this quote in high esteem. And the quote goes, we get here how we can. It's what we do here that matters, end quote. From the movie on Amazon Prime, G20. I pay tribute to you, Mr. President Ramaphosa. Africa pays tribute to you. All freedom-loving people salute and admire you. Palestine salutes you. History will weigh your greatness over your folly and indiscretions. It will probably read like, as in Shakespeare's King Lear, and quote, he was a man more sinned against than in sinning, end quote, says Saber Ahmed Jazbai in that message. All right, keep it going. The number to dial 086 000 2032. Your WhatsApp voice notes on 0614 104. All right, 0614 104 107. It's been a long week, but I look forward to hearing from you. All the calls lined up. I'll come to your calls in just a moment.
If you think you cannot afford a lawyer, think again. Clientele Legal has made professional legal services affordable. You receive up to 745,000 Rand worth of legal services per year. Our range of plans include cover for you, your spouse, children, and extended family. Plans include cover for civil, criminal, and labor-related matters. Whether it's protection orders, gender-based violence, uncontested divorce, or poor service, your Clientele Legal lawyer will be there to assist you. Our services are convenient. Simply pick up the phone and call your lawyer or send us an email and we'll get back to you. All plans include a bail benefit of up to 5,000 Rand and we'll go to the police station and pay it for you. Plus, Clientele Legal offers you 24-hour telephonic legal advice. SMS SAFM to 32195. That's SAFM to 32195. Clientele General is an authorized FSP and licensed non-life insurer. T's and C's online. Standard rates apply.
Nothing beats the summer holidays, lazy pool days, ocean waves, festivals, food, and family fun. That special time is almost here, and with Fly Saffair's affordable, flexible fares, you can zoom off to SA's hottest spots. Sunshine guaranteed, worries not included. For big holiday savings, use our low fare finder to hunt down the best flight prices in just seconds. Don't be a bummer. Fly into summer. Book now at flysaffair.co.za. Fly Saffair, for the love of flying.
What's one more thing you can do for a child today? Could it be one clinic visit for their next vaccination?
Or say something that will really tickle my brain.
Maybe one healthy lunchbox snack to fuel their day.
Or say something that makes me feel good about myself.
Or one strong no to alcohol in your home.
Just one thing today could change our tomorrow. Visit holdmyhand.org.za.
Call Thulasizwe now, 086 000 2032.
All right, let's go straight to your calls this morning. Let me start with Glenn in Bedfordview. If you don't mind, I do want to get through as many of the calls and voice notes as possible. So I'll pull back a little bit, but also on your side, do your best. Give it your best shot within a minute so that we take as many calls as possible. Glenn, show the way. Good morning.
Good night, my brother. Good morning, sir. Like the one. Yes,
Mhm. All right, Glenn, thank you for that. Glenn has shown how it is done. Let me go to Chico in Protea, Glenn. Good morning.
Morning, how are you?
Very well. Please go ahead.
Yeah, casualing talk. We are a nation that is imperishable.
Mhm.
We are just taken by what the USA and
Mm.
on.
Mhm.
And as what about in
Mhm.
casualing talk, number one, fully.
Yeah.
I'm concerned also about in study.
Yes.
It's become what the citizen of the South African
Mm.
and the way they are obsessed about penal time. Penal time all the way.
Mm.
Hey, the media.
Mhm.
What is it? What is what is Yes, why don't not my way instead of my way. Thank you.
All right, Chico, thank you for that. I do hope that we don't go back to mediocrity. You say go back to normality. I say it would really be mediocrity to go back to the state of neglect, pockets of which you still see, by the way. A lot of work done in preparation for the G20 Leaders Summit, but you do see a great deal of the decay of the city of Joburg. So I would hope that we as South Africans don't accept a return to that mediocrity. Luvo in Gqeberha, good morning.
Good morning, Thulasizwe. I don't know what is the hype about this. Because my problem is, what was declared there is not binding. In the media is not report.
Sorry, Luvo, say that again. The media what? You're saying the media is not what?
The media is not focusing about what was declared not binding. Not binding. Meaning the media is not focusing on that, number one. Number two, Lucas, I was disappointed when I was in Joburg last weekend. Everywhere I go, I saw our South African defense force.
Yeah.
Our South African defense force was all over the show. But then, we as South Africans, we don't deserve to be protected by our South African defense force.
Yeah.
Look at protest. That's really, to be honest with you.
Yeah, I hear
That's
you.
my word. We as South Africans, we are really in big trouble.
Yeah. Luvo, thank you for
Thanks,
that. Thank you for that, Luvo. That's Luvo out in Gqeberha. As far as the non-binding nature of decisions of the G20, I would say, Luvo, you are absolutely right. They are non-binding. But in terms of the follow-through on, so I've used the expression coalition of the willing, that they convince each other and say this is the right thing to do, and you can go and check whether there's been follow-through on some of their undertakings. Take the common framework for the treatment of debt that they agreed to a couple of years ago when there was the COVID-19 and the debt service suspension initiative. It's got its problems. It doesn't come through fast enough for countries in trouble, but it's a mechanism that they agreed to and they followed through on. And in this G20 summit, they've agreed to fix those weaknesses. So you can't say that it's non-binding and therefore meaningless. That's just one example. Go look at other examples. Do they follow through on all promises? Oh, absolutely not. They don't. They really, really don't. But you can track what they've done, where they've been successful. In fact, one researcher I spoke to says the amount of implementation, be it within a year, 2 years, 4 years, is at 71% of undertakings and priorities of G20 Leaders Summit declarations get followed through. It's just that there's no tracking board, there's no secretariat that follows through, because this then happens in the countries themselves at various multilateral platforms in the IMF that it then comes through. So it becomes hard for you to track as an undertaking from the G20 that is then followed through. So it's a mixed bag, I would say, in terms of delivery on those undertakings.
The listeners, Thulasizwe, I think enough has been said about the amazing and outstanding work done by President Ramaphosa and the government of South Africa. But I just want to compliment the SABC. But guys, you are amazing. You are world class. I mean, the broadcasting of this event was wow. I mean, everybody was involved. I mean, you guys went out, you interviewed ordinary people, you covered the protest. Guys, you are amazing. You're outstanding. I think my TV license is worth paying. Exceptional. Well done, guys.
Thank you.
Rudolph.
Rudolph, that's really appreciated. But you underscore, while we appreciate the compliment, I think you underscore the importance of public broadcasting, right? And I would hope that we then lift up that conversation beyond just the compliments for the team, which are well deserved, but we need to elevate the conversation about what is it that we want to do with public broadcasting that services people, even in instances like these, such as the elections and everything else that is of national importance. I would hope that this example would serve to elevate that conversation.
Good morning, Thulasizwe.
Sorry, I wanted to play this one.
Just a note on our president. Wow, wow, wow.
he's such a diplomat. I'm not ANC member. I mean, if not him, who else? Who else? He has got such charisma. I love the way he interacts with the leaders. You can see they love him, and you know, such a pity he's an ANC member. Have a lovely day.
Yo. All right, let me go to Nkuba in Tswane. Good morning to you, Nkuba.
Good morning, Tulas, and thank you very much. I want to comment on the issue of non-binding nature
Yes.
of declaration.
Hmm.
I think international law in its nature or international relations is just not binding. We just need to shift their way. That is very much the nature of my perspective.
Yeah, thank you for that, Nkuba. And you remind me, by the way, that, for instance, take this whole issue around leveraging critical minerals for sustainable development, sustainable growth, economic growth. I think even before the conclusion, there was already a deal between South Africa and is it the EU or one of the countries? I'll come back with that detail. Already, that's already starting to take that. So you won't find that on a dashboard that says promises made at the G20 that are being taken forward. But it then occurs, it's decentralized, I suppose, in terms of follow through. And I think that's what makes it difficult for many of us to track. Again, I'm not saying they always follow through. There are many, many instances where they don't follow through. Take the IMF reform, for example, something that's been on their agenda for the longest of time. You look at the language now in this declaration, it doesn't really say that we've made any significant progress around that reform. Nazir in Joburg, good morning.
Good morning, Thulasizwe. How are you doing?
Very well. Please go ahead, short and sharp for me, please. Yeah.
Thulasizwe, you see, this thing of the Zula, you know where they're heading. At the end of the day, we as Africa, not South Africa, as Africa needs to unite. You can't be chasing away your fellow black citizens by coming. Look at it. You got the euro. The whole of Europe is running one currency. In Africa, we're trading our own currencies. So Africa is trading a rand among 65 million people. Other countries are trading their currencies amongst themselves. Currencies are never going to grow. If you put your resources together and you back the currency on your natural resources, you have between. We will be the kings of the world after that. We will be leaving Africa and going into the West and into Britain and having holidays like the kings. You understand what I'm trying to say?
I hear you.
At the end of the day, our currency in South Africa, it was running on par with the dollar right up until 1989. When they knew that Mandela was going to get released in 1990, they fixed the whole system. The system is designed like that. It's designed to fail. I mean, you have to put total debt into the figure. The whole world is owing $300 billion. Who are they owing the money to? Owing it to a system. We are all going, but not worrying about our fellow human beings. You understand what I'm trying to say?
I hear you, Nazir. Loud and clear. Thank you for that. That's Nazir out in Joburg. I do need to go, though. Zaikan on standby.
You could spend 10 minutes waiting for that file to download, or get a 10-minute quote from Outsurance that could save you thousands on your car insurance. For his 2024 Ford Ranger, 57-year-old Andy now pays only 1,083 Rand a month. And for her 2020 Hyundai Tucson, 48-year-old Felicity pays just 836 Rand a month. Ready to get more out of your car insurance? SMS out to 30754. That's out to 30754. Outsurance, licensed insurer and FSP. TCs and information online. Enjoy a summer of extras with free gifts from Vodacom on all summer deals. Like the Huawei Pura 80 Pro for just 889 over 36 months on a 3 gig Red Core plan. And get the Huawei Watch Fit 4 with 2,999 on us. Plus, enjoy sizzling hot extras with 5 gigs YouTube data and 2 months free YouTube Premium. Available in-store and online. T's and C's apply. Further together, Vodacom.
Since December 2024, South Africa has proudly led the G20, guided by a powerful theme: solidarity, equality, and sustainability. From the heart of Africa, we're bringing fresh voices and bold ideas, united by a commitment to build a future where no one is left behind. where economies grow fairly and where our planet's health guides every decision. South Africa's G20 presidency 2025, together shaping tomorrow. This message is brought to you by the Department of International Relations and Cooperation.
This is SAFM Sport with Zai Khan.
Good morning. Let's start with live cricket action. South Africa crushing India in the second test in Guwahati. After piling up 489, the Proteas have India reeling at 122 for 7. Still 367 runs behind. Marco Jansen on fire with 4 for 33, and Simon Harmer has 2 for 49 as the hosts crumble. Cricket Springbok centre Jesse Creel says the team won't dwell on the historic 24-13 win over Ireland, their first in Dublin in 13 years, as the focus now shifts to Wales on Saturday. The Boks are aiming for a perfect 5 from 5 on their end-of-year tour, while Wales come in shaky after heavy defeats to Argentina and New Zealand. Elsewhere, soccer action, Cristiano Ronaldo made up for 2 earlier denied goals with an amazing scissor kick at 40 years old, scoring in Al Nassr's 4-1 win over Al Khalij in their Pro Saudi League match in Riyadh. Golf, Gino Titikul of Thailand capped off her best year with the biggest cash prize in women's golf, holding off an early challenge from Pajari Anakuran and closing with a 4 under 68 to win the CME Group Tour Championship by 4 shots. And finally, Max Verstappen won the Las Vegas Grand Prix with drama coming hours later. Both McLaren drivers, Lando Norris and Oscar Piastri, disqualified for excessive skid block wear. Verstappen took victory ahead of George Russell in second and Kimi Antonelli in third.
Well, I mean, it helped, of course, to get into the lead in turn one. I do think in the first stint, we were all finding our feet a bit with how much to push or not, how much we had to manage. Because I do think we're all quite close up until the pit stops. So we're just, trying to get a good balance because we didn't really, get to have a good understanding on Thursday. Yeah, it felt better than expected, I would say.
And that's your sport. We'll have John Hedeker back in the fast lane. More sport around 12:30 for SAFM. I'm Zai Khan.
Good morning, I'm Anne Musa. In the headlines, the Northwest Legislature is today set to hold public hearings on allegations of misconduct against Premier Lazarus Mokgosi. The probe stems from the Vryburg Naledi local municipality mayor's allegation that he interfered in the recruitment process of the municipal manager. A family member of one of the 17 South African men trapped in Ukraine has criticized the government for failing to repatriate them. And the KwaZulu-Natal Human Settlements Department says it will visit communities that heavy rainfall affected in the Mshwati municipality this morning. 3 people were swept away during the floods caused by the heavy rainfall. I'll have details on these and other stories at 9.
SAFM, guiding you through the rush hour traffic.
Starting in Pretoria with a heavy backlog into Hatfield this morning. Coming off the N4 is very bad all the way down through to Janscher, but also in from the Botanic Garden side. That would be the Pretoria Road extension, that looking quite so as well. R21 up to Fountain Circle queuing. There's some traffic light issues, might be something else, but it is heavy once you get north of Monument Park. Joburg's N3, a crash at Fun Beer, and so delays on all those options heading south through Galilee's, N12 R24 and the N3. Badly backed up northbound, coming up from Germiston, having a look at that quite slow as well. And the N1 Beyers Nordia through to Malabongwe jammed up also. Durban, a collision between Umhlanga and Virginia Airport. The M4 South heading to Durban stays badly backed. There's a breakdown now after an earlier crash at Paradise Valley, M13 and the N3 routes on your way passing or out of Pinetown through to Durban. Stay really busy as well. Van Riena's Pass, that big truck crash has been cleared. The backlog basically working its way through there. And Cape Town, what we alerted you to earlier this morning, saying it could be a problem, still is. It's the R300 North, a crash between Stellenbosch Arterial and Van Riebeeck Road. If you're turning off the N2, you're pretty much turning straight into that traffic. N1 inbound, slow this morning, high volume Monday from Plattercliff all the way through towards the elevated freeway in the city centre. M5's worth a mention as well, jam from Kenilworth all the way up to Kuberg at a change. Rob Byrne, SAFM Traffic.
The business update on SAFM.
Good morning to you once again in Dowling. Let's start with news about the ratings agencies and the allegations that crop up from time to time about bias. S&P is responding to that.
And you know, our G20 presidency like Africa's high cost capital and the need for a period a debt restructuring architecture at the center of the agenda scrutiny that has drawn credit ratings sideline events last week. S&P Global Ratings expected claims that African sovereigns are assessed more harshly than peers. Criticism long linked to the continent's elevated borrowing costs. According to Bloomberg, these Roberto Ravello said S&P applies the same criteria everywhere and that its methodology has been published to decades. Argued that accusations of bias often rely on comparisons across economies whose structural characteristics differ from those of African markets. Local officials and business leaders say recent practices form part of the problem the G20 wants to tackle. Standard Bank CEO Jim Kabalala reiterated suggesting African governments can be scored as much as four notches below what their fundamentals imply, a gap that compounds debt servicing pressure and undermines investment. The Bank Governor Lesotho Kganyago echoed concerns raised with the cost model used by agencies accountability. However, it is pushing
Mm. Yeah, no, it's an interesting debate. I think maybe in the coming days we might want to get someone who understands these things because the way I understand it in Dowling, the default rates on the African continent are much lower than in some regions. That's one. But in terms of the risk premium levied on African countries, that continues to be high. So the data is out there, but we hear what S&P is saying. Hopefully we can line up someone who can unpack all of it while we are talking issues of debt sustainability. Talk to me about Sea Harvest. I didn't even know that they were in Ladysmith cheese, but now they're exiting.
Yes. And this was part of their restructuring, right? When they couldn't secure enough licensed fish, so they then decided to diversify and they got into the cheese beginning to unwind that diversification strategy 5 years ago, announcing plans to sell Ladysmith cheese in a deal for 3 million rand. So the disposal forms the first major step in the group's new plan to streamline operations and cut debt after signaling at the start of the year that it half borrowing years. The group bought Ladysmith 2018 during a period of uncertainty over the renewal of commercial fishing rights. Those rights being secured, Sea Harvest is shifting back to its core seafood and aquaculture operations, saying non-assets no longer long-term behind the purchase is the Eastern Cape based family, long known for its ties to the Coca Cola ecosystem. The family recently unlocked fresh capital from the major recycle of its holdings in Coca Cola business, agreeing to sell 2.5% of the Coca Cola equity in 1.2 has even created room for muscle now and the but holds a majority.
The figure though, Ntauling, 850 million rand.
Land.
This is big business, Mus.
Yep.
Wow. Lastly, the markets. How are we looking and what kind of a trading day can we expect today?
Asian markets this morning with quick after the top sell-off. But traders are also bracing earnings from Alibaba, and that optimism has Hong Kong Hang Seng leading retail gains up 1.7%. Are also pointing higher, though the upside may be limited in this with a series of data being GDP, inflation, and consumer confidence. All those readings on the health economy and the consumer. Meanwhile, when it comes to our markets, we're on track to open the day amidst the following international news. We have a heavy day of corporate from Naspers, Prosus, CPC, Nikkei, and Nvidia. The investors tend to digest trade. The rand, in the meantime, remains under pressure. It's sitting at 70 dollar, way down high. Oil also on the back foot with Brent trading just above $61 a barrel as oversupply concerns grow amid reports that the US is pushing for a Russia-Ukraine deal.
Say cheese. Darling Lechela has kept you updated on business, economics, and the market throughout the course of the show this morning.
Whether it is a CCMA referral, problems with a mechanic, unfair blacklisting, or an uncontested divorce, Clientele Legal offers professional legal services to all South Africans. Our plans are affordable, and you receive up to 745,000 Rand worth of legal services per year. We cover civil, criminal, and labor-related matters. Our nationwide legal teams are standing by to support you 24 hours a day. Plus, all plans include a 5,000 Rand bail benefit. Join today. SMS SAFM to 32195. That's SAFM to 32195. Clientele General is an authorized FSP and licensed non-life insurer. T's and C's online. Standard rates apply.
This November, step into a world few have ever seen. From the smallest creatures on epic adventures in Big Little Journeys, starting 2nd November, to the frozen frontiers of our planet in Frozen Planet 2, starting 23rd November. Every Sunday at 6 p.m., discover beauty, danger, and the magic of life on Earth like never before. The best in nature dockies, only on S3. S3, open up.
South Africa is taking its place on the world stage at the B20 and G20 summits 2025. Telkom is proud to stand with the nation, building a digital future that reaches every community. Through reliable fiber, mobile, and cloud networks, they are connecting families, small businesses, and young people to new opportunities. They are helping drive digital public infrastructure so services are easier to access for all. Telkom, the digital backbone of South Africa's future.
Thulasizwe Simelane is streaming live now on Facebook, YouTube, and X at SAFM Radio.
So some strong commentary on mis and disinformation coming through from Professor Salim Abdul Karim. He says institutional disinformation has emerged as one of the greatest threats of the post-COVID era. And this warning coming through during the Archdiocese of Durban's annual Justice and Peace lecture. Speaking in honor of the late Archbishops Dennis Hurley and Abel Gabuza, Karim argued that the truth itself has become a casualty of political manipulation, social media speculation, and state capture. He joins me now to take that conversation forward. Good morning to you, and thank you for your time this morning. So why is this an issue that we should all be concerned about in the post-COVID era, and how does it manifest itself?
Good morning, Thulasizwe, and good morning to all of the listeners. We have seen that during the COVID pandemic, there was a huge push of incorrect information. A lot of it was misinformation. A lot of it is people who were, providing their own personal opinions and speculation as if it was fact. But what we are seeing now has been a shift from that kind of situation where people just at random were spreading incorrect information. Now what we seem to have is a very systematic way in which disinformation is being provided. In other words, deliberately spreading information that is not accurate. And that deliberate spread of that information is driving a whole range of important issues in society and it's creating a wedge between people. It is dividing us and destroying social cohesion. And so that's what we are seeing now. And it's most clear in the US, where the state itself is generating disinformation. One just needs to look at, just this week, the US CDC put up on its website that vaccines cause autism. And it's clearly debunked. We saw just barely a few weeks ago President Trump on television saying that Tylenol, or what we in South Africa know as paracetamol or Panado, is dangerous in pregnancy. All of those are disinformation. They are deliberately distorting the facts. And that's what we have to be very careful of. That there's now a change in the source of the disinformation, and the effect of that disinformation has now become a polarization in our society.
To what do you trace all of that? That rising culture of mis and disinformation, is it linked to ideological differences and political differences?
I think we've always understood that society has various political leanings and various political views. So that's not new, and that's certainly something we've followed. We've known that the state has used propaganda in the past. We use that word propaganda, which was just using the machinery of the state to provide the information that's not accurate or information that fits in with a particular ideology. I think what we are seeing now is somewhat different, in that what is being done is that uh, uh, people who have a particular agenda, let's for example say that there's a belief in the US that there's something called the great replacement theory. That is, that immigrants are going to become, and these are non-white immigrants coming in from various countries, are going to become the majority in the US in the next few years if left unchecked. And so if you believe in that theory, and there's evidence to suggest that based on current trends that that's likely to be the case. But if you believe that that's bad for the US, then what you do is you put out information that deliberately poisons the minds of individuals, that your problem in your country is the immigrant. And so the state then uses its machinery to do whatever it wants, and even violate human rights in dealing with that problem. And we're seeing a similar problem to that in South Africa, where there's a widespread uh, schism being driven in our society that is against immigrants. And you see that with the Dudula group, for example, that's stopping people from going to hospitals. So this kind of disinformation that is systematically poisoning the minds of part of our society is driving a whole range of political agendas. And that's what the big problem is.
Yeah. How do we counter it, though, especially in the wake of the proliferation of social media, digital media, and the use of AI? You yourself were recently at the heart of that disinformation, in that your image was used to create a fake video that, using AI, that was then spread with a message that you clearly would never champion.
Yeah, I think in the old days, it is not old days, but if you barely take 10 years ago, a large fraction of the information we received, or the news we received, came from mainstream media. They came from our newspapers, television, and so on, where there is editorial control, where there is fact checking, and where information that's put out by the state or by mainstream media was often checked, and so we were quite confident that it was mostly correct. Now, social media doesn't have any of that kind of controls, and so anything goes in social media, and that's part of the challenge that we are facing. That because anything goes in social media, that any information is can be spread. That's what's causing the challenge, and that's what's causing the problem. We we need to have better regulation of social media, but social media regulation is not really the answer. Ultimately, we have to have a society that is informed, is skeptical, and understands which sources it can rely on and which it can't rely on. Because there'll always be people trying to dupe you with, giving you false information. That's just what people are trying to do in order to either make quick money or to promote a particular political ideology. Whichever the goal is, that disinformation is a key weapon in their hands. We need to be a society that is very careful in assessing information we're willing to take as being true.
All right, let's leave it there for this morning. Thank you for your time, Professor Salim Abdul Karim, Director of the Center for the AIDS Program of Research in South Africa, CAPRISA.
SAFM, guiding you through the rush hour traffic.
So getting into Hatfield this morning, it is a series of traffic lights that are out. So if you're coming in through the Botanic Gardens off Pretoria Street, or coming in off the N4 into the Hatfield area, or coming down Jan Schober off Gordon Road, it's all fairly heavily backed right in that central Hatfield area. R21 into the Fountain Circle, that's quite slow as well. I think that's traffic light related. And the Mopari Highway inbound and Eskia Perth Valley outbound at the Patco Depot. Expect delays on both of those routes. Little operation underway that side of Pretoria today. Joburg's N3 going north into Galuli's remains pretty heavy for this time of morning. There was a crash on the southbound, which looks like it's pretty much out of the way, but I think a lot of onlookers there just keeping that N3 north under pressure. Further up between London Road and Buccleuch, really heavy north into the roadwork. Southbound fairly slow and sluggish as well down to London Road. Van Rynens all cleared up. If you've got to get through Van Rynens, you're good to go. It wasn't always the case this morning with that big truck crash which closed the road for a while, but it has been cleared. All lanes open there. Getting into Durban from Pytown, still slow. Paradise Valley area, so the M13 and the N3 being held by a broken down vehicle at Paradise Valley interchange. And then Cape Town, N7 north up to Four Tracker Road remains heavy. There's roadworks. The left lane is closed on that turning section to Four Tracker, so it just forces all that traffic into the main carriageway. It's a queue right back to the casino at this stage. And the R300, that crash at Van Riebeeck Road has finally been cleared. The R300 is sluggish this morning on the run through Cales River, but it is improving all the time. And just worth note, the N1 inbound fairly heavy for a Monday from around N1 City, Parow area, all the way up and over the elevated freeway. With your traffic update, I'm Rob Byrne.
Clientele is here to safeguard you and your family with compassion because life happens. Be part of a family that truly cares. Our funeral dignity plans have helped South Africans bury their loved ones with dignity for more than 30 years. Let us help you create a meaningful tribute that honors your life and those of your loved ones. We pay out within 24 hours and you will get double accident cover with a clientele funeral plan. Our plans are affordable. Pick the option that suits your needs. Easy to apply, no medical examinations and no paperwork. SMS SAFM to 48031. That's 48031. Clientele Life is an authorized FSP and licensed life insurer. T's and C's online. Standard rates apply.
The Minister in the Presidency for Women, Youth and Persons with Disabilities, Sindisiwe Chikunga, will on the 25th of November 2025 officially launch the 16 Days of Activism for No Violence Against Women and Children under the theme Litsema, Men, Women, Boys and Girls, working together to end gender-based violence and femicide. Tune in to The Talking Point, coming to you live from the launch at the Gallagher Estate in Gauteng.
James, congrats on the babies.
Yeah, thanks. It's a wild ride.
You're a new dad, 2 babies, 0 sleep, and 1 car that apparently couldn't cope.
Yeah, ish. The hatchback was my baby, but it just didn't have enough space for my 2 new babies.
And are you happy with the price when you sold to WeBuy Cars?
Very. We've even got some extra cash to splurge on one of those fancy brands that you basically need a license for.
Good luck, James. WeBuy Cars. Geared for family, geared for you.
Call Thulasizwe now, 086 000 2032.
All right, let me take as many of your calls and voice notes as possible. Let me start with this one that has to do with the charges laid now by Nkosazana Zuma against Duduzile Zuma.
Good morning, Thulasizwe. I'm very much disappointed about this evening, the Zuma family.
that means that man is unable to run his household. And we've made a very, very, very big mistake of putting him in charge of the country. And he showed us that he's a mess. That's why now everything that he touches is a mess. How can a sister open a case against a sister? The father is a responsible parent. Seriously. We've got a very big problem here in Africa. And those who are his followers, they're just following him blindly as long as he's Suma.
I hear the point you're making about the cohesion of the family and the father playing that role. But remember also, you're dealing with fully grown adults who, have their own relationship and their own agency and can decide to do things the way that they want. But I hear the point you are making and I take it to heart. Let me take a few of the voice notes that have to do with the G20. In fact, most of you wanted to talk about the G20.
Hello, Ziggy Randberg, wondering whether the past weekend's outstanding meeting of all of the world's most democratic leaders could have happened in Johannesburg had it not been for the threat posed by the autocratic and authoritarian dictators and bullies currently ruling the world.
Good morning, Thulas. This is Ntobeko Kubone in Mtwalum. Maybe my view will be controversial, but I just want to ask, why are you as media obsessed about America not attending? What's so special about them? Because most of the leaders were there. The summit went well. Even Argentina said they won't attend, but you're not talking as much about that as you are doing with America. So let's just forget about America and move on because we've proven to the world, Gucci, we can go forward without America. Thank you.
So here's the thing about that: the size of the US economy, a founding member of the G20 as a forum, but also the G20 being about interlinkages, systemic interlinkages between these economies of significance. You can't argue that the United States is not an economy of significance. And if they are not in the room as decisions about how to sustain the global economy, if they're not in the room, surely that is a talking point. Without a doubt, that is a talking point, is it not? But I would also argue against what you are saying about an obsession. Well, at least the media that I followed, I could tell that there was a deliberate following of the, I don't know, the attitude that says, yes, you'll mention it. Yes, it's significant, but it's not the be all and end all that the United States was not in the room as these conversations were ongoing. I saw a great deal of analysis that was talking about the content of the declaration, the countries that were there. But to say you could ignore that they are not in the room, I don't know. Let's be real with one another.
This is Richard, Durban. Thulasizwe, isn't it about time we have a conversation about trucks and on our roads, the frequency of the accidents they have and the disruptions that result from them? I really do think it's overtime. There has to be something. There are bullies on the road. They travel too fast, and probably that they don't have enough rest. Drivers don't have enough rest. Sweden. Thank you so much. Good show. Always listen to you. Cheerio.
Morning, Thulasizwe. Mine on G20. I'm just disappointed with this operation, the dollar thing. This thing is getting out of hands. Getting out of hands, including the MK party who were protesting there and they ended up being shot by rubber bullets because they didn't obey the rules that were given by the police there. Just disappointing with this dollar thing. I think we'll be done with us.
Hi, morning to Thulasizwe, JJ and State Street. I'm happy and I'm proud of the way South Africa handled the G20. And mostly proud the way the president handled it. The Americans are not the kings. They were isolated in the United Nations, and now they are isolated more.
All right, on that note, let me end it off with a call from Bond out in Gqeberha. Bond, you also want to talk about the G20 and how it went. Good morning to you. Hold on a second for me, Bond. Yeah, go ahead now.
I just wanted to say,
Mm.
what 5 years of the strength of the want to say to Africa, for always in that country was quite things, being granted, teaching things and being out there. Controlling that is so I'm saying it's a sense of pride that we're most of the United Nations operation multilateralism. Lastly, asking the Lil Department of Tourism to seize this collateral victory, promoting tourism and capitalism between the 80 countries and nations that is this is going to save a platter to promote tourism for South Africa. Thank you.
Take it and run with it. Thank you for that, Bond out in Gqeberha. Thank you for listening and for carrying me, right? I promise you, tomorrow I'll be well rested. The G20 is now behind us in terms of the Leaders Summit. Don't go anywhere. The Talking Point with Kathy Mutlatlana is up next here on SAFM. I'm Thulasizwe Simelane. You've been briefed.
In our top stories, public hearings into allegations of misconduct against the Northwest Premier and the fate of 17 South Africans trapped in Ukraine. Good morning. The Northwest Legislature is today set to hold public hearings on allegations of misconduct against Premier Lazarus Mokhosi. The probe stems from the Vryburg Naledi local municipality mayor's allegation that he interfered in the recruitment process of the municipal manager. The 4-day public hearings will take place at Sun City outside Rustenburg. Tabang Murutla reports.
The ad hoc committee chaired by Nathan Oliphant was established by the provincial legislature. It will commence with its investigations today. The committee, consisting of members of various political parties, is probing allegations of improper conduct of Premier Lazarus Mokhosi for allegedly interfering with the recruitment process of the municipal manager of the Naledi local municipality. Tabang Murutlwa, SABC News, Sun City.
A family member of one of the 17 South African men trapped in Ukraine has criticized the government for failing to repatriate them. Yesterday, former President Jacob Zuma's daughter, Nkosazana Bonganini Zuma Ncube, opened a criminal case against her sister, Duduzile Zuma Sambudla, as well as Sipokazi Ncuma and Blessing Koza relating to the matter. Zuma Ncube has accused all three of contravening the law. She claims the men were lured to Russia under false pretenses and were handed to a Russian mercenary group to fight in the Ukraine-Russia war. Sandile Ndlovu is the brother of one of the men.
They were recruited in the name of they are going to get training for bodyguards, or may I say their protection. So they were recruited by the Blessing Koza and also the President Zuma and so by the in Russia. So it's yeah, it's a much so far.
The KwaZulu-Natal Human Settlements Department says it will visit communities heavy rainfall affected in the Mshwati municipality this morning. 3 people were swept away during the floods caused by the heavy rainfall. Houses and road infrastructure have also been destroyed. The South African Weather Service had issued a severe warning for the province. The department's MEC, Sibuniso Duma.
now who unaccounted because the families were there while it was washed away. At this point in time, sort of was on celebrate that.
The Cape Winelands District Municipality in the Western Cape says it has tended to various fires in the district. Municipal spokesperson Joanne Otto says some of the fires have been contained.
Of lines, we have fire in the McGregor Mountains high up, which continues to burn in a broken line. Teams are monitoring the situation and there is currently no threat to property. In the Witzenberg Valley at Visgat and Rocklands, this fire continues to burn out of control. On the other side, in the contained lines section, we have the fire in Matruisburg above Swartwood Pass in Witzenberg. This fire which was caused by lightning has been fully contained. Again, on the Langeberg side, at Goats Window in Melazori, the Storms Flare area, the fire line here has been fully contained.
And finally, some people in Sierra Leone are claiming to sell human body parts for use in rituals. The parts are offered for thousands of dollars. They are believed to bring powers, success, or wealth. The BBC's Tyson Conte reports.
Traditional herbalists are the backbone of Sierra Leone's health system, outnumbering those who practice Western medicine. But criminals are damaging their reputation. BBC Africa Eye tracked down a man on the outskirts of the capital, Freetown, who claimed to trade in human body parts. Secret filming recorded the dealer bragging that he and his team had abducted, killed, and mutilated people. He claimed to be part of a wider network. 3 men were arrested and charged with practicing sorcery, as well as being in possession of traditional weapons used in ritual killings.
Recapping the top story, the North-West legislatures today is set to hold public hearings on allegations of misconduct against the Premier Lazarus Mukhosi. For SAFM News, I am Anne Musa.
Mzansi, get ready. 7:30 is the time for Champions Call, a powerful documentary that takes you on an exciting journey through the 14-year evolution of the Carling Cup, powered by Carling Black Label. From iconic players and inspiring coaches to the fans who light up the game, this documentary brings back the moments, emotions, and memories that shaped South African football. Catch Champions Call on Saturday, 22 and 29 November on SABC1 and SABC Plus at 7:30 p.m. Proudly brought to you by SABC Sport.
The Gauteng Provincial Legislature is opening its doors and putting accountability in the spotlight. Tune into the Talking Point with KG Mwegezi on Wednesday, the 26th of November, for a special Chairperson's Roundtable discussion. Go behind the scenes with chairpersons in the social cluster as they share how committees drive oversight, transparency, and meaningful public engagement. Brought to you by the Gauteng Provincial Legislature.
SAFM 104 to 107 nationwide.
The Minister in the Presidency for Women, Youth and Persons with Disabilities, Thulasizwe Simelane, will on the 25th of November 2025 officially launch the 16 Days of Activism for No Violence Against Women and Children under the theme Litsema, Men, Women, Boys and girls working together to end gender-based violence and femicide. Tune in to The Talking Point, coming to you live from the launch at the Gallagher Estate in Gauteng.
Mzansi Africa. Unity defeats any challenge. Let us unite and speak out against gender-based violence, HIV/AIDS, emotional and mental health issues. During celebration of this holiday season with our families and friends, let's enjoy responsibly. We rise by lifting each other. For assistance, contact Lifeline South Africa. Stop gender-based violence. Call or WhatsApp 0800 150 150. Alternatively, call National Health Hotline on 0800 012 322 or WhatsApp on 084 922 8808. Lifeline South Africa. Mental and emotional health for all. This is an SABC-supported initiative.
This November, SAFM proudly presents the third annual lecture.
I do want to say that in the public service, there are also checks and balances. The fact that people may not have applied doesn't mean it's not there.
SAFM invites you to our third annual public lecture, delivered by Chancellor of the Nelson Mandela University, Dr. Geraldine Fraser Muleketi. The theme of the lecture is confronting inequality, corruption and unemployment.
Let's hold everyone accountable and to standards, whether you have a GNU or not.
The lecture will take place on the 27th of November 2025 at the Indaba Hotel, Spa and Conference Center in Four Ways, Johannesburg. Secure your seat by emailing us at rsvp@safm.co.za. SAFM, leading the conversations that move us. The Talking Point with Kathy Motlatlana. Weekdays, 9 a.m. till midday.
Three, four young people, they came to our foundation and they said to us that they, as young people, have a problem because the history that we know, that history tells us one story, which that black people will always fail. Look at the history. There's a history of slavery. We are taken as slaves. There's history of colonialism. We are colonized. There's apartheid. We are oppressed. And they say we can see the problems in the country, in South Africa now, but we are not motivated to say anything about how to solve them because we know for a fact that we will fail. If you look at South Africa, economy is in crisis. The politics is in crisis. Crime and corruption crisis. Even our relations with the rest of the continent crisis. There's nothing you can look at which does not say crisis, what people call Haiti. That was the first Black Republic formally constituted on the 1st of January 1804. And you know what had happened in that particular history? The African slaves stood up, rose, took up arms against slavery. They defeated the British, they defeated the Spanish, they defeated the French. Louisiana was a French colony, but in the end, the French decided to sell it to the United States. Nobody asks the question, why did the French decide to sell Louisiana to the United States, their colony? It's because their army was defeated in Haiti. To tell that history, so that these young people can say, we didn't know our people could do that. The black slaves in Haiti was 60% first generation slaves. They were fresh out of the continent. And they decided enough of the slavery. Stood up and defeated 3 European empires. When you tell that to young black students, you mean we did that? Exactly to make the point that this inferiority complex which you inherit, including from history, is wrong. How do we defeat that sense of inferiority among our people?
Those are the words of former President Thabo Mbeki opening the show up for us on this Monday morning. A very good morning to all of you that have tuned in to the Talking Point and have tuned into SAFM right through from early this morning. My name is Kathy Motlatlana, and I'll be with you until midday as we lead conversations that move us. It's precisely that inferiority complex and the stories and the narratives that help to build it or to feed it, that we need to change. We need to start telling better stories of ourselves, of who we are, and what exactly it is that we are capable of, especially coming out of a weekend like we've just had with the G20. You know, the dust, of course, over that particular leader summit is settling, but it's pretty clear that number one, the world is shifting, and number two, that we no longer are just on the sidelines. South Africa, once again, on the global stage with a sense of purpose, speaking to issues of reform, of growth, of resilience, and of a fairer global order. It's been a powerful moment for us as a nation, but one of the things that we have to contend with is how we use the moment to move us forward. And perhaps today becomes a good moment for us to pause and also to reflect on what it is that we do with a moment like this. Yes, the world has acknowledged our role. It has acknowledged our voice. It has acknowledged our potential. But when all is said and done, the real work, it lies and it begins right here at home. So how do we take these G20 commitments to issues like inclusive growth, like digital transformation, sustainable energy? How do we translate them into tangible progress for our communities? This global momentum that we've been able to build, how do we accelerate our own reforms to unlock issues like jobs, building competitive industrial capacities, strengthening our own governance system, and also rebuilding our institutions? How do we use again this moment of clearly being a bridge between Africa and the world to ensure that the benefits of this global cooperation that we have seen are able to reach people where they need it the most, in townships, in rural areas, in emerging businesses? And perhaps those are just some of the issues that we can reflect on as we open the lines for the National Roundtable today. It's been an incredible moment of global recognition, but how do we move it into local transformation? How do we move this moment into local transformation? And I wonder what you, as South Africans, are thinking about what we can extract from the moment, not only for brand South Africa, but also for all of these issues that we know we're dealing with as a country. This weekend has confirmed that our story is not just one thing, right? And many things can be true at the same time. We can be dealing with all of these incredible issues around corruption, malfeasance, and a state at times that feels like it's failing, and yet also be able to rise up to the moment on a global stage. That is the contrast and the contradiction of our country. But what can we do to make sure that we get the most out of it, to bring the transformation where it's needed the most in our country? Because we certainly show that when the moment calls for it, we can do it. We are capable. We are capable. Ours is not just a story of failure. At least that would be my contention this morning. Of course, I'll be taking any other matter that you want to put on the National Roundtable. The number to dial this morning is 086 000 2032. 086 000 2032. On the WhatsApp voice note line 0614 104 107. And on X, it's at SFM Radio. So coming up on the show, we'll start off with the open line, your National Roundtable. I'll be taking your calls, your WhatsApp voice notes, your text messages. You can start sending those through. In the second hour of the show, we're going to be looking at what I believe is a really important conversation to have in the context of this global moment. And it's about the continent, right? Africa being able to speak with one voice. Can we get ourselves organized as a continent? Because there is just so much that we would be able to do. And this is something that I think was also alluded to on the sidelines of this G20 conference. But what is it going to take for the continent to align itself? Because clearly it doesn't matter that we have this African Union and that, by virtue of people being part of the AU, it is supposed to be consolidating views, consolidating consensus. That's what's supposed to be happening. But it's clear that the platform in and of itself is not sufficient to at least ensure that on the matters that are important, on the matters that position us as a global player, we are able to consolidate that voice. So we'll be reflecting on that in the second hour of the show. And in the final hour, it's a fascinating story. So there has been an unearthing of human remains. This took place in 2003. And these remains are believed to be of slaves and displaced individuals from the 18th and 19th century. These remains were discovered in Greenpoint in Cape Town in 2003. The raging debate for over 2 decades is whether these remains should be classified or seen, at least from the academic world, as ancestors or as scientific artifacts. That is the tension. And it's a big debate in archaeology and academia. We'll be looking closer at this conversation in the final hour of the show. And it's based off the work of Professor Siona O'Connell, who's with the University of Pretoria. And she's just premiered a documentary titled Unrest. It premiered in Europe, and it focuses on this debate around whether these remains from an academic and archaeological point of view must be titled or named ancestors, or that these are simply artifacts for study within these sectors. That's what's coming up on the show over the next 3 hours. I'm looking forward to being in conversation with you. The ad hoc committees and the Matanga Commission of Inquiry will continue their work tomorrow, and I hope that you're ready. It's going to be a big, big week in as far as that is concerned, because at the ad hoc committee, we're expecting none other than Vusimuzi Ket Magala to be the one that is giving evidence. How is Parliament going to navigate its way through that? Well, we'll be watching closely.
SAFM 104 to 107 nationwide.
Gender-based violence is destroying lives and tearing communities apart. It happens in homes, in schools, at workplaces, and too often in silence. But it doesn't have to continue. If you see it, speak out. If you are hurting, reach out. Because doing nothing is not an option. Listen to all 19 SABC radio stations for hard talk, discussions, advice, dramas, educational shows, and interviews around GBV with experts, survivors, lawmakers, and a whole country affected by gender-based violence. All on your favorite SABC radio station. Call 0800 428 428 to report abuse or get help. GBV, it ends with you. This message is brought to you by the SABC.
The Jet Set Breakfast.
How would you, first of all, select the ice